Welcome in. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. I got a chance to go outside after the 9 to 11 stream. Jeb is here in studio as well. It feels pretty fantastic outside. It feels like a day in the Bay. I'd say that day in the Bay. Jeb's from the Bay Area. I think he would enjoy this.
It might be even nicer here than the Bay Area. They're getting some big rain. We have a beautiful Christmas. We have a California Christmas coming up.
Yeah, California Christmas coming up. A nice day. Jeb likes to do the afternoon, evening runs. Nice day for that. I'm just saying, just throwing it out there if you feel like it, or if you at home feel like going on the afternoon, evening run. All right, enough of me and forecast and weather and telling you how I feel about the weather. Let's get a full check of our forecast.
Happy Tuesday, everyone, and Merry Christmas Eve. It is December 23rd, and it certainly doesn't feel like it outside. Probably the biggest change from yesterday, other than the fact that we'll be warmer today, is that yesterday saw sunshine, then clouds. Today, we're starting off with clouds with more sunshine building in throughout the afternoon. Temperatures are warmer with most spots reaching the 60s. Tomorrow, we're looking at potential for record highs and then near record, but likely not getting there on the 25th. So first things first, before the sunshine comes out, winds are going to be pretty breezy today. We'll see gust potential upwards of 20 to 25 miles an hour. So this is not your inflatables, right? Your holiday decorations down the street, but they could be tipping over at times. I wouldn't say it is any super big precaution that you need to take, but just be watching those. And if you're someone who likes to bring the inflatables down when it's gusty wind-wise outside, probably want to do that today just in case. Temperature wise, we're in the mid 60s, again close to 10 degrees warmer than yesterday, mid 50s up in the mountains. But as we look ahead, of course, we know that things are changing. First things first, we feel the warmth overnight. So temps this morning were right around 40. Tomorrow we're close to 48, which is again about 10 degrees above average. So that trend just keeps on coming. Anytime you see southwest or southerly there on our wind speeds, that oftentimes indicates that we're getting warmer air coming in from the south and southwest. Typically, this means somewhere along the Gulf, or of course sometimes even the Atlantic near the Gulf Stream, right, when it comes to that warmth coming into the Carolinas. So we're pumping in that warmth. At the same time, we have a cold front that's going to try to move through the area, bringing that backdoor cold front in. But because it's a backdoor front, we're not really going to get that true cool feel. And with all of this action happening across the Carolinas, all of this warmth, kind of air masses trying to collide, we're just going to continuously see this progressive warmer temperatures over the next few days. I do think that backdoor front, though, will impact how warm we are heading into the 26th. So that will have an impact on that. So here's your warmest Christmases here in Charlotte, 77, 1955. That's why I don't think we're going to break the record, but we're certainly looking to at least tie 2015 right now, which was the second warmest. What is interesting to note is that some of these were a really long time ago, right? Number 5 and number 6, 1879, 1889. But 3 of these have happened in the last 10 years, and that includes roads this year in 2025. So record high potential, pretty good on Christmas Eve, as I mentioned before. Likely not going to get there, but still well above average on Christmas Day. Kwanzaa, seeing more clouds with that backdoor front, so we will be cooler. But even as we're cooler on Friday, we are still expected to be close to 10 degrees above normal. And then Saturday is a day where once again we could break more records. But Sunday looks to be a transition day. That's when we'll start to see some changes. That's because we start to see a big trough of low pressure start to dip in from the jet stream. Sundays will be a progressive cool down, so it's still in the 60s. But by Monday, you're really noticing that cool down. And then a secondary trough starts to dig in by the end of really the 2-week forecast. And this is likely going to bring us even more cool air eventually. So we know that all good things, and when I say good things, at least in this case, I'm talking about the warmth, will eventually come to an end. Notice we go from highs Thursday and Saturday from 74 all the way down to 45 Monday and 40 on Tuesday. So it does look like we're going to see a pretty chilly end to 2025 and start to a new year. Here's that Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. So even though Sunday does see that transitionary day, still in the 60s, still a very nice day for our last Panthers home game. But look at the difference between Sunday and Monday. I mean, I think everybody can agree, whether you like this weather or you like that weather, that it is going to be a substantial shock to the system. Have a great rest of your week, folks. Enjoy the holiday, and happy holidays to you and your fam.
California Christmas on the way. Before that, temperature drop next Monday, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Jeb is also here in studio. We want to get now to the Fulton County area. So Fulton County, that is in the Atlanta metro area, depending on where you are. But we want to get to this. Lanier Johnson Hunt, the Georgia high school student who went viral last week after video surfaced of him being repeatedly tased by Fulton County Schools police officer, breaking his silence at a news conference with his family and his attorneys. So Johnson Hunt is represented by civil rights attorney Harry Daniels, also attorney Gerald Griggs, both based out of the Atlanta area. Let's take you now to that press conference from just moments ago before we got onto the stream.
One, to allow Mr. Johnson Hunt to speak out, what transpired, what happened, and some of the misinformation that's been provided in this matter. Let me say this, first and foremost, that Mr. Johnson Hunt Lanier was on the right school bus. It was a dereliction of duty from the adults who had a duty to, one, ensure that a student is on the correct bus, which he was, and for his safety. I know been a lot of echoing, like, why didn't he just get off the bus? And we're going to explain this morning why it was imperative for Lanier to go home. And one of the reasons it was imperative for him to go home because he had an autistic little brother who was going to get home before him or right after him, and he had to be at home to meet his brother at home. So it was imperative for him to get home, not just to get there, but to ensure the safety of his little brother. And a lot of that have not been spoken about, talked about in the media or on social media, but we want to put some context of what transpired. Now, one thing, Mr. Griggs will come and talk about this as well. We want to make sure that we very clear that we understand the position of listening to law enforcement, particularly when they give you an order or a command. Lanier understand that. We spoke to Lanier about that and the consequences that can result from that. But we equally want everybody to understand that you do not use excessive force against a child, especially in a situation such as this. The video speaks for itself. You see Mr. Lanier being, at one point, the officer having his hands around his neck, slamming him back into the seat, then using his taser in a drive stun mode, and that's when the taser actually is pressed to the body and the probes actually burning sensations to the body. Lanier has burn marks on his throat and his chest. Matter of fact, Lanier, come here for a second. Open your shirt up. Please zoom in on this. This is the injuries that he sustained on his neck, going across his neck and his chest. Get back up a second, put it back up. Area that's very sensitive, especially when electrical probes are located at. His heart is close by. We have people who have been tased or drive stun that can cause a person to go into cardiac arrest. So we're talking about excessive force in an issue that could easily be cleared up by an administrator checking the system. And his mom's gonna come back and talk about what transpired what she was initially told and what actually transpired and what actually happened, what she initially thought would happen, and what she was told from the school administrators. But the most important thing we want to echo is that, and I say this and I echo this, I remember when I was in the military, and a drill sergeant would correct one person, and he would be she would be very loud. They wasn't loud because they was upset at the person for doing something wrong. They wanted everybody to hear. And we are here because we want everybody here, not just Fulton County, the state of Georgia, but the entire United States. This type of actions, conduct, excessive force will not and should not be tolerated. This is a child attending school who's simply trying to get home. Simply trying to get home. Using a chokehold, using a device to burn his body is excessive beyond excessive. Let's don't make no mistake about it. This is why we're here. Mr. Griggs, you want to come up and say something?
Gerald Griggs, Gerald, attorney. And we've been here too many times. Too many times we've seen the use of force by law enforcement on black bodies in this state. And it has to stop. I echo what Attorney Daniels has said. I echo what our client is going to say in a few minutes. He was merely trying to get home to take care of his little brother. He was on the right bus. You know, I've seen the media reports, I've seen the social media comments all over the place. Let's be clear. He was in the right place at the right time to do the right thing. Law enforcement overreacted, and we all know that they have a very difficult job to do, but sometimes you need to check before you encounter. The administration should have done more to check before having this encounter. Because we know, and Harry knows this as well as I do, these type of situations turn deadly. And we are glad that we are here, not for a deadly encounter, because he's still here, but we are upset that we have to do this over and over and over and over again. So I want to be clear, this will not be tolerated in Fulton County, in the state of Georgia, in the United States. We've got to do better, and it starts right now. This young man was merely trying to go home. This young man was merely trying to take care of his family. This young man's injuries to his neck are atrocious. And so we want answers, we want accountability, but most importantly, we want this to stop. Right. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn it back over to Attorney Daniels, and I'm sure you will hear from my client and his mother shortly.
All right, thank you, Gerald. We're going to have his mother, Ms. Johnson Hunt, to come up and speak.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I just wanted to speak on the situation of when I first received the phone call from administration, how they tried to play a completely different narrative. They called me and told me Lanier was on the bus trying to fight the police officer. He was actually on the wrong bus. They couldn't get him off the bus. They said that he gave the wrong name. Long story short, none of those things were true. He was on the correct bus. They never asked him his name. They asked another student what his name was. He was not combative. No, he didn't get off the bus after the second time because they lit them off and put them back on the bus. No, he did not get off, but I just don't feel it. Tasing him in his chest was the correct thing to do. Like, not at all.
You know, when I saw this video, I didn't, I'm going to say it's not akin to a circumstance that took place in 1955 when a black woman in Montgomery, Alabama refused to get off the bus. And I thought about it is that even in the height of the beginning of the Jim Crow law and the civil rights movement, started the civil rights movement, she was thrown in jail. She wasn't beaten, she wasn't tased, she wasn't choked. This is 1955. You're talking about 2025. Lanier was choked, burnt with a taser for refusing to get off the bus he had a right to be on. The same right that Rosa Parks had a right to be on. Just trying to get home after a long day. That's trying to get to his little brother. That's what we teach our kids. To be right. Take care of your little siblings. And even in that, he was still subject to excessive force. Because nobody asked the question. It's like I said, it's a dereliction of adults. Nobody asked the question, simple question. They could have, the same way they told the mom that he was on the right bus, they could have looked in that office and school system and whatever to say, yeah, he's on the correct bus, let's go home. What does it hurt to even take to let the bus go, drop the other kids off, and he on the wrong bus, keep him on the bus? But they didn't want to do that. They want to call law enforcement to the scene, a gun that could have turned deadly. Next, I'm going to let you hear from Lanier. After that, we're going to have some Q&A, and if you ask some questions, me and Ms. Griggs may intercept those questions, answer those questions. Lanier. You want to tell them what happened?
Tell us what happened.
I know, it was just like a normal day at school. I was just trying to get home, get on the bus. And as soon as I get on the bus driver told me that I was supposed to be on the bus. And today she gonna make sure I'm gonna get off the bus, so don't even sit down. So once I sit down, she pulled up to the administrators. And the administrators get on the bus. And they automatically thought I was on the wrong bus. They just, when she told them my name, they got on the bus and just told me to get off the bus. At first I refused, and then when I was refusing, they said if I don't get off the bus, all the students have to get off the bus. So once all the students got up off the bus, I got off the bus with the students. And then as soon as we all get off the bus, they didn't check nobody's names, they just told everybody to get back on the bus. As I get back on the bus, they told me to get off, and that's when they called the officers. When I sit down, the officers had came on the bus. They asked who was the student they was talking about. And the bus driver had pointed me out. They came back. They asked me to get off the bus. I had refused and told them this. Well, I was trying to tell them this is my bus, but the students was telling them that this is my correct bus. All the students on the bus was telling them this was my correct bus. Then, out of nowhere, one of the officers had said, if you don't get up and get off the bus or we're going to tase you. I said, I still refused to get off the bus. And that's when they tried to pull me and grab me. And when I got back up, when I got back up, he had choked me, tried to choke me, then he tased me. And when he tased me, I got up. I was still, I don't know, my adrenaline was just rushing. And I just know that he tried to tase me again while I was getting off the bus. And I jumped off the bus. And when I was off the bus, they put me in some handcuffs. And the officer who tased me had started slapping me while my hands was in the handcuffs. He was slapping me, then he tried to tase me again while my hands was in the handcuffs. And that's when the administrators came back outside and tried to break it up. But he was already in the midst of slapping me. And when they broke it up, he was still running towards me. He was still trying to attack me while my hands was in handcuffs. He was trying to push against the administrators who was holding him back every time he seen me. When I was in the room with the other officers after this situation, when he seen me, he tried to attack me again. They had to pull him back and pull him away to cool down. But when I was in the back room, they called the EMS. The EMS had checked me out and told them that I needed to go to Grady. And they said, no, I'm not going to Grady, I'm going to Rice Street. But the EMS told them, even if I go to Rice Street, I'm gonna still have to go to Grady first. So they volunteered, the officers volunteered to take me to Grady, and I did not go to Grady that whole day. I went straight to a police station, and they held me in the police station until they had gave me a ticket and sent me back home to my mother.
All right, so like I said, we want to put this in context. As you can see, that it was just not an incident that took place on a school bus. That's what we call, an officer is rendering what we call gratuitous force. Force is not necessary. We don't believe the force on the school bus was necessary or warranted, especially when our client was in handcuffs. And this was a out of control officer, out of control. Completely unhinged, out of control. You can see the video of him using profanity towards Lanier. And the fact that he's trying to, according to Lanier, he's still trying to go after him. You know, Lanier may weigh 130 pounds soaking wet. You had these two officers, grown men out there, that could have easily handled and controlled the situation. And Lanier was afraid to go to the hospital with them. He wanted to go to the hospital. He just didn't want an officer to take him to the hospital, especially an officer who was continuing to try to assault him, but he was in handcuffs. So, like you said, it's more to this story for all the ones who talk about he should get off the bus. Well, when he got off the bus and they put him in handcuffs, he was still being assaulted. See, it's more than what you see on the video. You know, and it's a reason why we believe why Fulton County and the Fulton County police department suspended this individual. What's his name?
Jimmy Durnin.
Durnin. So, you know, we just want to make sure that his story get told. Next steps, we'll see what next steps are. I know a lot of questions, what's next? Well, first and foremost, we all want accountability for those who are responsible. And what I'm hearing, it just wasn't the officers, but also some, and I said before, some missteps by possible bus driver and administrators. And those things should be they should be held accountable for their actions and investigated so this type of incident don't happen again. With that being said, we're going to open some questions.
So to be clear, Lanier, was he charged?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what was the charge?
I had Resisting arrest.
Can you step up to the microphone?
Yeah. So what are you charged with?
Resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, and obstruction.
Resisting disorderly conduct and obstruction, and also he's currently under suspension. I know we're on the Christmas break, holiday break, and he's currently on suspension from the school, to my understanding. Is that right, Mom?
Yes, sir, for 10 days.
So that's something that we actually have to deal with as well, particularly this incident and how this incident arose as to whether the suspension should have been warranted in this situation, especially when you're aware now that he was on the correct bus. Go ahead.
Yeah, just two questions. The first one.
You gonna get two of them, Mama? You gonna get two of them?
The first one is, why in the first place was he even identified as someone who may be on the wrong bus? That's the first question. And if you want to answer that.
Yeah. So that question we don't know because that's the same bus he rode every day. Was the same bus driver?
Yes, but like she's new. But
Sure.
she came a couple months ago. Like a month or two ago, and she liked to pick on the boys. We feel like we realize she be picking on the boys. Like we have other situations of people who's supposed to ride the bus, and she had them get off the bus. Like,
So you had ridden on that bus with that driver repeatedly prior to that?
yes, sir.
And let me stop for a second. And that's why. Let's go back to his question. That's why it's such an anomaly. He was just on the bus. He rode the bus. So I'm the question as to whether the bus driver have a memory issue. You know, if she is a female bus driver.
Yes, sir.
If that's the case, she should not be driving children. If you can't remember from the day before a child get on your bus from the next day, you know, so that's a great question you asked. So we don't understand why did she assume that he didn't supposed to be on that bus when he just rode the bus.
And this is probably a better question for the district, but it seems to verify that would be, I would imagine they have a roster of names and who goes on bus A, B, C, D, E. I mean, what happened between the time the bus driver said we shouldn't be on it to the mess that they're in now?
Well, I think that is a great question for the district, but my response is nothing. They didn't do their job. They could have easily checked. And the bus, to my understanding, the school bus is like an extension of the classroom. You know, who's supposed to be on this bus, you know, because you got to ensure child safety, the safety of the children to get back and forth to school. So, you know, that could have easily been verified. It was verified at Mom that he was on the right bus. It could have been verified the day of and would have not been here today. Next question.
Lanier, how old are you? And
Hold on a second.
your younger
Hold on a second.
sibling?
Here you go. I'm trying to be fair to the women, everybody out here. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry, sir.
How old is the younger sibling with you?
How old is Kingsley?
I mean, to what extent is this sort of routine for you to go home and take care of you?
He's 6 years old. So he's, even if he didn't have autism, he's not old enough to be at home by himself. So his big brother would go and make sure he was okay at home. Hey, go ahead.
And how old are you and what grade are you in?
I'm currently 18 and 12.
He's a senior, he's 18. Go ahead.
So no plans in place right now for any specific legal action against the school district or the bus driver or the officer?
Well, I knew you was going to ask that question. So let me just say this. First and foremost, our first step is to get Lanier back in school. All right, this suspension, we'll be working with the school and with his mother to see can we correct that issue. And move from there. You know, it's always an issue as to whether legal action be taken in these cases. I mean, at the end of the day, you see his neck, you see his body, you know, that's injuries, you know. So when you look at those things and as somebody's responsible for those, and sometimes the only way you can hold those accountable is by bringing legal actions. So let us be clear that we're going to seek every avenue from administrative as well as all the way up to the United States District Courts and the federal courts to get redress for Mr. Lanier for what transpired. Because it's not about in Fulton County School, and I hope they're right. You know, I've had rumblings there. They may be wrong that this officer had prior incidents and bad acts and conduct, but it's an isolated incident, according to them. But other people tell us this is not isolated with this officer, that he tased another child on another day. You know, we haven't verified those things, but that's what we're being told. So we want to ensure that, one, accountability is not just for Lanier, but everybody else child that go to Fulton County.
All right, so that is that press conference from just moments ago. Georgia high school student going viral after video surfaced of him being tasered repeatedly by a Fulton County Schools police officer. Speaking out, that's his attorneys, his mom, right there beside that student, Lanier Johnson Hunt. Okay, well, let's take a step aside. We are going to take a break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We want to go now to Los Angeles. What's happening right now, LA County officials are hosting a press conference providing the latest updates on that storm system there impacting Los Angeles County. Let's take a listen in.
Emergency management. They have all been working tirelessly since the weekend to prepare and to keep us safe here in LA County. This includes distributing sandbags, preparing those living in areas at risk of flood or mudslides, and issuing evacuation warnings for those in recent fire-scarred areas. We strongly encourage you to avoid any unnecessary travel during the heavy rainstorm. And if you haven't picked up your emergency supplies or sandbags yet, please do so today if you can, before the heavy rain begins. Our homeless outreach teams have also been engaged, but if you are unhoused, please call 211 for assistance. And if it is an emergency, call 911. Before I hand it over to our county departments to share their efforts, I want to encourage everyone to take a few steps to stay informed and prepared for whatever this storm may bring. You can find all the latest information on the storm at ready.lacounty.gov/rain. Sign up to receive emergency alerts at alert.lacounty.gov. And for quick information at your fingertips, connect with us at social media at Ready LA County. You can also, again, access 211 if you don't have access to the internet. As we celebrate the holidays, I want to be mindful of that it's important that we stay alert and we stay vigilant and that we keep each other safe. Please know that LA County is ready, and should any emergency arise, be prepared to help and assist our residents. I want to thank you for attending this presser today, and now it is my pleasure to turn it over to Sheriff Luna. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you, Supervisor Solis, for putting together this press conference. I do want to start off just really quick with acknowledging and in a sense respecting that we're nearing the end of 2025, and 2025 didn't start off that great for LA County with the fires, and we're ending it with floods. I know our residents have been through a lot this year, and so have our employees. So I just want to make sure we acknowledge that as we're talking about our preparation efforts for what we're talking about here today. So preparation for this storm began days ago, not just within our department, but through a coordinated effort across Los Angeles County. I want to thank Kevin McGowan, our Director of the Office of Emergency Management, for putting meetings together at either early hours or late at night to make sure that we're going to be providing the best service to our residents. We've been working closely with all county partners you see here today, particularly the Department of Public Works, who takes the lead in these events. The Fire Department, the Office of Emergency Management, and other public safety agencies to track the storm, coordinate the resources for the storm, and identify vulnerable locations and plan our county response. Yesterday, sheriff deputies proactively conducted surgical outreach, including door knocks, to pre-identified vulnerable residences established by Public Works to notify them of evacuation warnings and orders, which will go into effect at 11 a.m. this morning. And I just want to remind the audience, our community, that when we're talking about an evacuation order, that believes that we have determined as a team, primarily Public Works, that there's an immediate danger or a potential immediate danger to your safety and the safety of your family. If we're talking about an evacuation warning, that's potential danger. You need to pay attention to both, and I'll explain those in a second. Currently, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department has a total of 124 evacuation orders in place. When I say 124, that's that surgical approach that I'm talking about. All properties were door knocked, and those that didn't answer given a door hanger. And the door hanger looks just like this. Our deputy sheriffs going out there, knocking on doors, either handing them to residents who answer the door and leaving them on the doors where they don't answer. But we don't give up. We're going back out today and making multiple efforts to make sure that our residences are safe. So deputies are also utilizing our brand new Citizen Evacuation Tracker tool, which improves field tracking of evacuations during emergencies. It allows our personnel to log evacuated addresses and special circumstances in real time. Deputies are focused on ensuring our community understands the seriousness of this threat that we're talking about today, the timing of the evacuation, and the importance of leaving early, especially during the holidays. Again, all props to our folks. What worse time, right, for something like this to happen? Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. We acknowledge it, we respect it. We have a lot of folks working to make sure that our communities are safe. These evacuation orders are made with your safety in mind as they help protect you and your loved ones from potential danger. Storms can bring sudden and severe conditions that may make staying behind extremely risky. I want to say that again. If you are told to evacuate, you have an order in place, you are putting your risk and your family's risk, or your lives at risk, I should say. Please, deputies come here, you've got to listen to them. Please listen to them. In addition, our Sheriff's Homeless Outreach Services team, better known as HOST, has been engaging our unhoused population residing in and around our waterways since last Friday. You will hear from the Public Works Director after I speak. He is going to lay out the fact that it is very dangerous to be around our flood controls. And it's not just during the storm, but as they have to do dam releases for more water, he'll explain it, he's the expert. This threat will last beyond a week. So please stay away from the flood controls. If you are part of our unhoused community, that's why our deputies are out there making sure we get you away from those areas, because you are at risk. HOST has contacted over 73 persons experiencing homelessness. I want to make sure everybody knows it's a team effort. LASA and other homeless organizations for LA County are offering services, motel vouchers for our residents, our unhoused residents. We have activated key emergency resources, including search and rescue teams and Air Rescue 5 helicopter, which is equipped to deploy swift water rescue capabilities if needed. We hope it's not, but we're ready. Unfortunately, we have seen far too many incidents where fast-moving water is underestimated, placing people in extreme danger and life-threatening situations. Our incident management teams are also on alert, and our department is collecting what we call mobile field force rosters from throughout the county for deputies working from different stations to ensure personnel are ready and available to respond to any critical incident arising during this storm or anything else that could come up. Additionally, the Department Operations Centers, in conjunction with the County Emergency Operations Center, will be activated and operational starting tonight at 6 p.m. for the duration of the storm. We urge residents, especially those in evacuation zones, to take those orders and warnings seriously and start preparing now. Identify important items such as medications, important documents, and other essential items in case you must leave quickly. I want to throw something else out here. If a loved one of yours lives in these evacuation areas and they are either disabled, they're elderly, please make sure that you have communicated with them, you have coordinated a plan to get them out. And maybe you're making a decision to get them out before this storm comes, which I think is a very smart idea. But make sure that you do that. Please contact them to assist if they need evacuation immediately, and we will try and communicate the best we can with them and yourself. If you decide to stay in your home in an evacuated area, debris from the burn scar areas and the storm may impede the roads. And it could be difficult to leave once a storm begins. It also may be hard for first responders to access the roads, and attempting to do so places our first responders in unnecessary danger. Please avoid flooded roadways, stay away from drainage channels, and do not wait until conditions become dangerous to act. Prepare yourself. It is critical. It could save your life. We encourage residents to visit lacounty.gov/emergency for tips and preparedness information. You can also sign up for emergency alerts at alertla.org. I would like to now introduce my partner from Public Works, Mark.
Thanks, Sheriff. Good morning. I'm Mark Pastrella, Director of Los Angeles County Public Works and Chief Engineer of the Los Angeles County Flood Control District. This weather event I'm going to describe the weather event that we're about to experience. This event is a warm winter storm event. Some people have referred to it as a Pineapple Express. Supervisor referred to it as an atmospheric river-driven event, and that is accurate. We expect the event to produce a lot of rain over a short period of time, with some intensities that give us concern. The hazards that will be in those rain totals could be up to 4 to 8 inches in the valley and coastal areas, 6 to 12 inches in the foothill mountain areas. In plain language, we haven't had an event, an atmospheric river event like this in some time, probably more than 4 or 5 years now. These events do produce, as I said, high quantities of water running down our mountain system and across our urban streets and gathering in our riverine system. So basically the basin is going to attempt to drain a lot of water over a short period of time. There are also going to be a lot of water in the Santa Monica Mountains area, along the Malibu, and along PCH, and it's going to come from that mountainside and run down that system as well, creating additional challenges for residents and for first responders. We're also forecasting strong winds, 50 to 60 miles per hour. The heaviest rain is expected tonight through tomorrow morning, and again on Christmas Day, unfortunately, during the evening hours. We expect that to be a problem, obviously, because we are in a holiday event. Be assured, though, Public Works is open 24/7, and we're going to have a crew of more than 300 personnel on site 24/7, making sure that you are protected, your lives are protected, your properties are protected in coordination with the partners here today. Of course, our biggest concern is the recent burn areas. Hazards will include potential flash flooding, rising river flows, mud flows, debris flows, and down trees. Also, low-lying areas can expect ponding. So let's talk a little bit about where these areas are. All of the debris flows, mud flows, and rockfall we expect to be within the mountain areas or the mountain-urban interface. Those are places like the foothill communities of the unincorporated area of Altadena, Pasadena, La Cañada, Flint Ridge, Duarte, and then along the same situation for the Palisades fire area, the city of Los Angeles, the Malibu, and the unincorporated areas. All should expect these hazards to impact them during these storm events. In the low-lying areas, what I'm normally concerned is in the areas of Long Beach, Carson, and the southeast Los Angeles area, where we expect to have ponding within the street system. The street system, I'll remind you, along with the flood control system, is maintained for the most part by LA County Flood Control District, the flood control system, but also the road system is maintained in the unincorporated areas by the county and along with their city partners. Those streets, I want to remind everybody, are a part of the flood control system. Something to keep in mind. This is what we utilize the street system to move flows along with the channels. So along the LA River and the streets adjacent, you will expect flows in those streets. Something to keep in mind as we are entering into the rainy part of this event. So what can you do? Well, I know what we have done. We have prepared for more than a year now, since all year round, LA County Flood Control District and LA County Public Works is preparing our system to protect your lives and your property by maintaining a world-class flood control system. It includes assets like 14 major dams, reservoirs, 154 debris basins, 500 miles of open channel, 2,500 miles of storm drain, and all the associated appurtenances and catch basins that go along with it. And as I said, the street system is a part of that system as well, so that we can drain the water safely through the system without damaging your properties or hurting property owners and saving your lives. What can you do? What you can do is avoid flowing water, streets, rivers, lakes, and channels. This is no place for anyone to be during rain events or when there is flow in these systems. And as Sheriff said, we expect to have to do dam releases, which means that there will be water in the LA River, there'll be flowing water in the LA River as well as the San Gabriel River and other components channels post this event. And those flows can be up to like 19 feet per second. They can move a small car. 6 inches of moving water can move a small car. So if you are driving in a street system and see ponded water or moving water, I recommend you don't go through that water. You stop and take a different route. If you must travel, you need to leave early, slow down, avoid mountain roads, and burn scar areas. Just basic thing. I also am going to want you to know that the evacuation orders that were given were on my recommendation as the Chief Engineer of the Los Angeles County Flood Control District and the Director of Public Works. I made those recommendations by analyzing the situation that we had post-fire and looking at this storm event. We identified over the last year vulnerable properties. Some 383 properties are considered needing evacuation. You heard Sheriff mention 120 orders. We also have an additional 100 plus orders, 200 orders going out to city areas. We've contacted the City of Los Angeles and made the same set of recommendations within the Palisades area and other areas, and in coordination with the City of Los Angeles, Duarte, Pasadena, those folks are also getting door knocks, and those recommendations for evacuation stand. Again, those recommendations are based on technical science, forecasting of the current weather event, and our best estimate for who would be most vulnerable. If you are being recommended for evacuation, you will already know that, because we will be door knocking along with the city on every property. So again, I really want everyone to heed that evacuation and to comply with sheriff and PD orders when you are asked to evacuate. And then for those of us that are not being proposed evacuation, my recommendation is that you seek shelter when it begins raining. Whether you have a home you can shelter in, or if you're in a hotel visiting Los Angeles, or if you're in the unfortunate condition in which you don't have a home and perhaps you're a person experiencing homelessness, we want you to seek shelter, and later on in this conference you'll be informed about where shelters are available for community. Shelter is your best resort in flood events. Sheltering in a home that is flood-free is the place to be. It's where you will be safest. So please make provisions for your Christmas and your Christmas Eve to be in a shelter somewhere, whether it's your home, a hotel, again, or in one of the county shelters, so that you can be certain that you will be safe from any of the potential damages that occur. So with that, I'll just mention the public resources that are available. You can go to lacounty.gov/emergency, as Sheriff said. And now I'd like to introduce Los Angeles County Fire Chief Anthony Maroney.
So thank you, Director Pastrella. So good morning. I'm County of Los Angeles Fire Chief Anthony Maroney. The forecasted storm system is on track to bring rain, flooding, and debris flows to Southern California today through Saturday, with the potential for dangerous mud and debris flows in the 8 burn scar areas. With a flood watch in effect this afternoon through Wednesday evening, significant rainfall is expected with the potential for flash flooding. As a region, we continually monitor our vulnerability by conducting a daily risk analysis. The County of Los Angeles Fire Department has augmented fire resources and staffing, and we stand ready to respond rapidly to all storm-related incidents utilizing ground and air resources. As the state's designated Region 1 coordinator, covering the areas of Los Angeles, Orange, Ventura, Santa Barbara, and San Luis Obispo counties, it is my responsibility to partner with our fire and rescue agencies so we can effectively coordinate and dispatch mutual aid resources when a large-scale emergency, like a widespread rainstorm, occurs. With a full range of resources available to us, I want to assure LA County residents that your fire department is prepared and stands ready to respond. In preparation for the storms, we urge residents to stay informed about the latest flood and flash flood watches, warnings, and weather advisories. Listen for emergency alerts and information. Sign up for Alert LA, a free mass notification system for LA County residents at lacounty.gov/emergency. Create an evacuation plan and heed evacuation warnings and orders from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Download the Genesis Alert mobile app or visit protect.genesis.com to view your evacuation status. Genesis is spelled GENASYS. Prepare for power outages by stocking up on essentials and plan alternate travel routes if flood risks increase in your area. Assemble an emergency go bag with essential supplies, including a flashlight and battery-powered radio, water, medication, and important documents. Stay off the roads. If travel is unavoidable, check real-time conditions and drive at reduced speeds, avoiding standing water and debris on the roadway. Stay out of the ocean, stay out of floodwaters, and always avoid moving water, especially the region's flood control system and channels. Never approach down power lines. Be vigilant for falling trees and downed utility poles and power lines. By following these steps, residents can help ensure their safety and the safety of their communities during the storm. For additional information on how to stay safe and prepared, visit lacounty.gov/emergency. I would now like to introduce the Director of the Office of Emergency Management, Kevin McGowan.
Thank you, Chief Maroney. For the record, Kevin McGowan, Director, Office of Emergency Management. I want to just reiterate a couple of key items that my colleagues have mentioned. So first and foremost, on the emergency notification and alert, it's very important for you to sign up not just for the county's alert system. We have a lot of municipal jurisdictions that also maintain emergency notifications and may be the primary notification source. So go to the websites that have been mentioned. lacounty.gov/emergency is a single point where you can access other websites to sign up. Find out if your local city has a notification system and sign up for it. I also want to emphasize that our partners at the National Weather Service also send out emergency notifications. Please heed all of the directions from the National Weather Service, Los Angeles Oxnard Field Office. They can issue flash flood warnings, high wind warnings, and some of those come with emergency notifications with directions on what you should do if there's an imminent threat. So again, please sign up for emergency notifications. It's one of the most important things you can do to get real-time information. Additionally, the county, again, my colleagues have mentioned this, the county's been at an all-hands-on-deck preparation mode since over the weekend. Our emergency organization was fully activated. Our emergency operations center and department operations centers will be activated this evening, and that's to coordinate and support countywide efforts. Lastly, I just want to mention that this threat is widespread. We've spent a lot of time discussing the burn areas, but in addition to the burn areas, there's potential hazards across the entire county, the coastal areas, wind-prone areas, and flood-prone areas. So in other significant winter events, if you've experienced wind damage, flooding, localized flooding, now's the time to be prepared. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to Kim.
Thank you. We will now take questions in English, specifically on this storm.
Good morning. When it comes to Christmas time, people are obviously planning their travel. They've been planning this for months, spending time with family. You guys mentioned avoiding travel if necessary. How do you preach to someone to reconsider something they've been planning for maybe all year long, especially with the storm on its way?
Because safety is number one. I mean, the last thing we want to do is ruin anybody's Christmas plans, but we have an obligation as a county family to say, to wave the flag and say there's a threat, a real threat out there. And so for us, making sure that everybody understands that whether they're driving in here, they're flying in here, may have to rent a car and visit family, to really pay attention to the warnings, the orders, and make sure you're coming into a zone where an emergency can happen. And we don't want you to be part of it. We want you to kind of, that old saying, we want you to complement, not complicate things. So that's why Supervisor Solis decided to put this out. We do our normal course of communication through all of our departments. But for you guys as our partners, we got to let people know we don't want anybody to get caught off guard. Safety number one.
Next question.
For the evacuation orders.
All right, so you're watching a live press conference there in Los Angeles County as they prepare for a strong storm system to move through the area as we approach Christmas. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sutherland. We want to get to a story that is developing, and we want to talk about the impacts of this story, which broke last week. So President Donald Trump signed an executive order to federally reclassify marijuana. Now, Trump's December 18th order directed Attorney General Pam Bondi to, quote, take all necessary steps to complete the rulemaking process to reclassify marijuana. Miles Harris is here. This has been a discussion for a while. It's been on the table for the Trump administration to reclassify marijuana for months. Walk me through, because this impacts, obviously.
This is a big layer.
It's a big thing.
It's a big onion, right?
Yeah,
It's got a little bit of layers to it. And you brought up a good word with this, though, too, because ultimately this now evolves the discussion when it comes to marijuana, cannabis throughout the country. But here's the angle when it comes to North Carolina, though, as well. So just to kind of dive into what this move means. So basically they're reclassifying or rescheduling it from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3, which basically means that the bill or that the drug or the plant, I guess in this point, is kind of classified as less harmful, less addictive. So now that evolves the floodgates for more research to be done on cannabis. So that's basically what in part this does. And what this also does now is start the conversation with what kind of defines cannabis, but what could also linger down with this, so as well as how this conversation could also mean when it comes to the definition of hemp. Because remember a couple of months ago when it came to the government shutdown bill and that legislation that went with that, they were also tying in a piece with the CBD and having to kind of make it a little bit more stricter to kind of lower the percentage down with that aspect. So now with this bill coming into play, now that there's more questions into, one, is there an access point or a pathway for hemp to kind of get into the same playing field with cannabis? But then also, what are the definitions with these, though, too? And they're hoping that the research that is now being opened up with this can ultimately answer more of those questions. So I know that's a lot of layers. It's a lot of layers, but it's a step forward for the hemp industry, I guess, for the cannabis industry.
I was just about to have to say the business aspect.
So, and it's not necessarily a business impact directly here, but again, that it answers, or not answers, but it asks more questions and evolves that part of it now too. And so now it kind of goes into the next steps with that. So when I talked to a cannabis attorney earlier today, they mentioned, it's a win, but there's still now questions into what this means now. And this isn't something that's going to be done with just a wand, a wave of a wand. There's going to be more of this that takes a couple of weeks, a couple of months, but for the most part, I mean, it is a win. It is an interesting win for North Carolina when it comes to the hemp industry, for the cannabis industry. But again, still some questions that need to be asked with this one, though, too. So
we were talking about it in the newsroom, just so many layers, so many different angles to this story. When can folks check out your story this evening?
4:30 and 5:30 today.
4:30 and 5:30. You don't want to miss it. Again, an interesting story there. Miles, thank you for your time.
Appreciate you guys' time, too, man.
You want to take a break, Jeb, or go back to L.A.?
LA, man, it's important stuff.
Okay, let's go back to LA, where they are giving us updates, LA officials, on a strong storm system moving that way with a couple of days left towards Christmas. Let's take a listen in to what's being said.
Pronósticos, estamos en camino para lluvias al sur de California desde hoy hasta el sábado, con la potencial de flujos de escombros en áreas de quemaduras. Con alerta de inundaciones vigentes desde esta tarde hasta el miércoles por la noche. Se espera lluvias significantes con potencial de inundaciones repentinas. Como región, monitoreamos continuamente nuestra vulnerabilidad realizando análisis de riesgo. El Departamento de Bomberos del Condado de Los Ángeles ha aumentado los recursos y el personal de bomberos y estamos listos para responder rápidamente a todos los incendios relacionados con la tormenta. Como coordinador designado a la región número 1 del estado, cubrimos las áreas de los condados de Los Ángeles, Ventura, Santa Bárbara, San Luis Obispo y Orange. Es nuestra responsabilidad asociarnos con nuestros colegas del Servicio de Bomberos para que podamos coordinar y despachar eficazmente recursos y ayuda mutual cuando ocurre una emergencia a gran escala, como una tormenta de lluvia generalizada. Con una gama completa y recursos a nuestra disposición, queremos asegurar a los residentes del Condado de Los Ángeles que su departamento de bomberos estamos preparados y listos para responder. En preparación para la tormenta, a los residentes les requeremos que mantengan informados sobre las noticias, alertas, y avisos meteorológicos de inundaciones y flujos repentinos. Escuchar la información y las alertas de emergencia. Regístrense en Alerta LA, un sistema gratuito de notificación masiva para los residentes de los condados LA. Crean un plan de evacuación y obedezcan las advertencias y órdenes de evacuación del departamento de los sheriffs. Descarguen la aplicación móvil Genesis Alert o visite protect.genesis.com para ver su estado de evacuación. Al siguiente estamos pasando a los residentes pueden ayudar a garantizar su seguridad y la seguridad de sus comunidades durante la tormenta. Para obtener más información adicional sobre cómo mantenerse preparados, visita la.com. Muchas gracias.
And lastly, we will now have remarks in Mandarin from Chunti Wang with the LA County Fire Department.
早安，大家好，我叫春去王，我的中文名字是王君娣。今天仅代表洛杉矶县政府消防局来为各位做中文的简报。就想让大家知道，我们消防局还有县政。
All right, so that is a live look there in Los Angeles, California, as we hear from county leaders, LA county leaders speaking on storm preps. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. So some breaking news in Metro Atlanta. This is in DeKalb County. So this is a majority of Atlanta. This is also Decatur, Stone Mountain area. That is an idea of DeKalb County in Metro Atlanta. So 3 inmates escaped from DeKalb County jail early on Monday morning, including one of the U.S. Marshals described as a violent fugitive serving a life sentence. So we heard from the sheriff's office there in DeKalb County earlier about this. Let's take a listen in to what was said.
Thank you for being here. I am DeKalb County Sheriff Melody Maddox, and I want to report this morning that the streets of DeKalb County are once again safe. They're safe for our communities, and we want to say that is because of the swift action of the law enforcement that you see standing here and others. I especially have to give a thank you to our fugitive and field operations unit. We also have standing here the United States Marshal Service, Marshal Thomas Brown of the Northern District of Georgia. His team include Eric Hines, Acting Chief for the Southeast Regional Task Force and the South Florida Caribbean Regional Task Force. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of our DeKalb County Police Department Chief of Police, Chief Pedrick, our community partners who reached out during this time, Clayton County Sheriff Levon Allen, and Fulton County Sheriff Labatt, who reached out to assist, to ask what was needed. They asked because their concern was for their community as well, because what happens in one community can surely happen in another. And one of the things that I made sure that on December the 1st of 2019, I made a vow. I made a vow to protect the citizens of DeKalb County. I made a vow and I stuck to it. I'm going to continue to stick to it. This will not be tolerated. We're going to continue to fight and make sure that our family, friends, and loved ones are safe, and that people know that they can come into DeKalb County and enjoy, live, work, and play. As I announced when we began the process of trying to recapture these 3 inmates who escaped from this jail on Sunday night, my primary focus is to make sure that you all know that DeKalb County Jail is secure. This is a breach. We're not going to sit here and go back and forth and point blame. We're going to focus on what can we do to stop it from happening in the future. We're going to be asking for things to assist us with this aging facility that's deteriorating right before our eyes. We're going to look at improvements that are needed here. We know that it's going to cost money. We know what it costs. But we either pay now or it's going to be a payment later. So I want to thank all of you all for coming out. To the media, I say thank you because you all did put it out there. Oftentimes we don't want to say thank you to the media, but I will say thank you because you all put it out there and you let them know that we are looking. And we're not going to stop. My team and I have not slept. We've rested, but we have not slept. And we don't sleep when things of this nature happen. These are one of many incidents probably has taken place throughout the world of escapes from jails and prisons. But here at the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office, we jumped into action immediately, and we didn't stop until these individuals were brought back to custody and that our streets are safe so that our children can go out and enjoy the holidays, enjoy their gifts, so our family members can enjoy other family members. So I want to turn this over to my chief, Chief Atkins, who will be able to give more information as it entails in regards to what took place on Sunday night.
Good morning. The reason we're here today is due to the escape from the DeKalb County Jail. In talking about that escape, what I'll start with is the individuals that left our facility. Stevenson Charles, age 24, charged with murder and armed robbery in DeKalb County. He was here in our facility under a felony life sentence for murder through the federal system. Yusuf Minor, age 31, charged with 2 counts of armed robbery and 2 counts of possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony in DeKalb County, also here under sentence from the state system. Noad Johannes, age 25, charged with simple assault, arson, and unlawful acts of violence in a penal institution. Those are the reasons that we're here today, because these gentlemen chose to try to escape or effected an escape from our facility. I'm going to turn it over to Marshall Brown, who will tell you about the ongoing investigation and the tracking down of these individuals. Marshall Brown.
Thank you. See if I can get my paperwork here in some kind of order. The United States Marshal Service immediately came to the assistance of the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office, who is one of our strongest partners, when we were contacted to help them locate this individual. Because there is a member of the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office, Deputy Sheriff Williams, on that task force, it was very easy for him to put the file together and present it to Chief, I'm sorry, I just drew a senior moment, Chief Hines, desk to approve those folders and start this in action. Now, this was 2 separate federal task forces that we had operating. Because Stevenson was a federal inmate that had escaped, then the U.S. Marshal Service took the lead on finding and apprehending him. That particular task laid at the hands of Chief John Stevens, who works in the district office, and the group of task force members that are located in my office. The other 2 individuals, who are state actors, became the charge of the Southeast Regional Task Force under the command of Regional Chief Hines, and so we work parallel together. As long as the 3 inmates remained together, and we had information to suggest that they were, and I will talk about that later, then those 2 task forces will continue to work together for that one effort. But at any time, if Stevenson had broke away from that group, then it would have become on Chief Stevens, who would be the incident commander, on tracking Stevenson down. He was our main target. That's who we was focused on, and Chief Hines, working with the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office task force, would concentrate on the other 2. At around 11 p.m., information from the DeKalb County recorded inmate lines, when they determined that these individuals was gone, led them to an individual who had made contact or was contacted by Stevenson to meet them outside the jail at a location when they facilitated this escape. That was done, and yes, that was done successfully, and they were picked up by a gentleman, you'll find that in the report later. This thing gets very voluminous. So they were picked up and they was taken to the girlfriend's house of inmate Minor. Inmate Minor's girlfriend then contacted a Lyft to pick up the 3 inmates and transport them to an address in Florida. That took place. We were able to, using the intelligence of the Marshal Service, track that movement. No need to talk about how and what we use, just we're the U.S. Marshals and we have ways to track. And so we tracked them all the way to Florida and made the arrests in the metropolitan Miami area. Those individuals were picked up there without incident, As you can imagine, the Lyft driver is very traumatized by this. She's being interviewed by the FBI for additional kidnap charges as well as other things of that nature. So the system worked the way it's supposed to work. It would not work this well had it not been for the great relationship and partnership that we have with local law enforcement partners, state law enforcement partners, as well as our federal partners as well. So that's it in a nutshell. And as we take questions, at least from my end, please understand this investigation is ongoing. We want to make sure that the U.S. Attorney, as it relates to Stevenson, has an airtight case. And so you're going to get a lot of, I can't answer that question for you as we go through this motion. So with that, I turn it back over to Chief of the DeKalb County Jail.
Thank you, sir. We will entertain questions at this time.
Can you tell us exactly how these inmates are able to get outside of the jail building itself?
Okay. First, let's start by saying that we operate a 30-plus-year-old facility. And as with the building of such, some of the infrastructure can be compromised with effort by the inmates. That being the case in this instance, we would not like to be more specific as not to give out the person's ideas of how to further compromise this building. But we're making some adjustments, being assisted by the county to shore up the infrastructure and to make adjustment with our policies regarding to this incident.
Chief Maddox mentioned some changes.
That's Sheriff Maddox.
Yes, excuse me, Sheriff Maddox mentioned some changes that you'd like to make, by the way. Could you tell us exactly like what you're looking to change about the infrastructure of the jail without giving away how these inmates are able to get out?
To be honest, at this time, we're not discussing those things because we're ongoing, doing those evaluations and making sure that we're doing a comprehensive job in regards to that.
Can you clarify, Marshall did talk about that there was a phone call. So are we saying that if one of the inmates called someone to pick them up and coordinate with the girlfriend of one of the other suspects? Can you explain that, again, how that worked and how you were able to, I guess, monitor the phone call, and that's how you knew this was going on?
Okay, if you're familiar with the jail environment, all of our phone calls between inmates and citizens is recorded. So we utilized our internal intelligence unit to start to review calls that would have been made by those particular inmates or just calls that were made out of that particular pod, which is a normal standard operating procedure.
DeKalb County just opened up the new real-time crime center. Did that play a role in this search? And if it did, was it an effective role?
In this particular instance, the components of having the U.S. Marshals involved, it didn't, necessitate us using the real-time communication center. So we didn't utilize it this time, but we expect in the near future, in any incident that we have, we'll be using it. But the fact that our federal partners needed to be brought into this, it was more along the operation of the federal partners and us.
What was the clue that the infrastructure was compromised? Was this based on when you're looking to see how they got out, or was it based on, say, listening to the phone calls? Was this something that you were somewhat aware of and someone picked at it and was able to get out? I mean, what are we talking? When were you aware that this particular piece of infrastructure was compromised?
It was discovered when our officer was doing his feeding times. So once he entered the cell and did his preliminary check, he was able to discover that a portion of the cell had been compromised. We subsequently started to do our investigation at that time.
Chief, can you explain the timeline for us? So you guys figured out that these 3 men were missing sometime overnight, but when did you actually notify the public? Because I know different news outlets were calling to say, hey, can you confirm this? And do you believe the fact that the public was not made aware earlier that it could have put people in danger?
It's our assertion that the public was made aware as soon as we were made aware. Now we had to, probably a small amount of time where we had to assess what we actually had. You just can't go out there and start to sound the alarm without figuring out what you have. The difference between the time that they exited the facility and the time that we got onto it, there was some distance in between there because of the activities that were going on. If you know about a jail, we executed one activity, then we come back several hours later or, and do our next round. So that's the distance that people may think that we didn't notify anybody, but you have to understand that there's not an omnipresence in that cell, so that's the gap there. Then once we realized in that amount of time that they were out or that they subsequently were missing, then we had to figure out if they were still in the building somewhere, and then figure out, once we figured out they had exited the building, then that's when we went forward with alerting the public. So
How long was that gap though? So
I think it probably was about 4 hours, but like I said, there was a lot going on in between that.
Chief, do you have a general statement about safety? I understand that the sheriff did say that the jail is now secure and you are going to be implementing some things to make sure that this doesn't happen again. But since the jail is now being secure, has anything been implemented already?
Okay, we repaired the area that was compromised, and we're looking at other areas that are similar to that to fortify them to make sure that they're not compromised in the same manner. That's the thing I can tell you right now. We've elevated our round pattern just for a sake, so we're just doing more rounds right now till we get those other things fortified.
My last question is just speaking to community and safety, because we're seeing a lot of these escapes going on in the metro area. Are you guys partnering with other police agencies so that you guys can kind of do something to kind of bring this number down with escapees happening?
Okay, unfortunately, our main focus is the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office. And as the sheriff spoke to briefly, we're always in the business of partnering with our local agencies, the DeKalb County PD, and all of the municipalities. Anytime there's an instance like this, we lean on those individuals to try to assist us. We think we do a fairly good job on a day-to-day basis, making sure that our facility is safe, and we'll continue to do that.
Mr. Marshall, clarify that.
Chief, not to belabor the point, but we knew about this escape for about 6 hours before it was actually confirmed. Can you explain why that happened?
As I said before, we gave out the information as soon as we understood exactly what we had. We will never give out information prematurely because that only causes chaos. So some of your time frames may not align with the time frame that we have in order to give the public the best information and to be able to execute a plan. So those are the differences. But what we will stand on is the fact that we always have the DeKalb County citizens, the citizens of the metro Atlanta area, and the citizens of Georgia at our forefront of our thought process. And we're going to always get the information out at the best time that we can do so. Sometimes that won't align with what the public wants. Sometimes that won't align with what the media wants. But I guarantee you it aligns with what the situation dictates.
Was anyone hurt while these guys were out?
Not in to our knowledge.
Can you clarify, Stevenson Charles, I know there were 2 people that were state inmates and others were federal inmates. Can you clarify that? Because Stevenson Charles pled guilty in Gwinnett County. Can you explain why he was in a jail, which is generally for people who are awaiting trial? Can you explain that?
Okay, as most people know, individuals just don't perpetrate crimes in one area. So he had been held accountable for his crimes in Gwinnett and his federal crimes, but that doesn't mean he was going to dodge the crimes in DeKalb County. So he was extradited back to our facility to be held accountable for those charges or those crimes that he perpetuated in our area.
Even with a life sentence?
That occurs.
Will these inmates be extradited back to the state of Georgia to stand trial? Are all 3 of them in Broward County right now?
You want to speak to that, Marshall?
They will eventually come back to Georgia to face the state charges here in Georgia. Go to your point, sir. Stevenson was in this facility on a production order to appear in the DeKalb County Superior Court for a pending trial scheduled for January 6th. That's why he was here.
So there was no, and this may be, you may not have any idea, but there were no negotiations for that case, because if someone, put it this way, and if you're in a state facility, we tend to think of state facilities as being safer than a county jail. Obviously the sheriff has talked about need for improvements here, and I imagine going to the county commission and asking for more, but that was a risk. If you're in a situation where you are sentenced to life in prison to continue to go forward with a state case, are we aware of any efforts to make sure that case was pled out or whatever, so we wouldn't be in the situation someone who was here who pled guilty to I guess it was like I forget what the charge was, but basically kidnapping.
That will be a question directed to the district attorney of that county. They will be the one to bring those charges forward.
I have a question for the sheriff. You know, a lot of people were on edge for a very long time.
Sure.
There were some people who were frankly right across the street from the jail that I talked to about this. They didn't even know that 3 men had escaped the jail. Moving forward, what do you plan to do to make sure the citizens of DeKalb County are safe and that something like this does not happen again?
Moving forward, I'm going to continue to do what I've been doing, making sure they're safe. They're safe now. That's why these individuals are in the custody. And when you talk about what we're going to put in place, we already have things in place. Let me just say this, and I want to say this really quick. Some people lead by, authority and power. I lead by faith and prayer. I pray this agency up. I pray for my citizens. So when you talk about making sure that they are safe, that's why we have these partners right here. That's why we do assessments on this facility to make sure that this building is safe and that this does not happen. And as Chief said, we're not going to put any information out there unless it's valid and it has been verified to make sure that the citizens of DeKalb County are getting the valid information that they're supposed to have. So that's the way it works with us, and we're going to continue to do it. We've done a great job, and I'm going to say this and lead this and end this questions right here. They're asking me to make bricks out of straws. And we're doing the best we can with what we have. And I think we've done an outstanding job, and nobody's going to take away the fact of what DeKalb County Sheriff Office has been doing and will continue to do for the citizens of DeKalb County. Not just the citizens of DeKalb County, but for the state of Georgia. And I will always remain convinced to the citizens that I will do everything in my power to make sure that these inmates are treated with dignity and respect. For those that commit crimes are held accountable. But not only that, to make sure that my employees are taken care of. Because my employees are the ones that have to sit here and have to work in this facility. These are the ones, you have our field division that have to go out to the fields and make sure that we keep those streets safe. Yes, DeKalb County PD answers the 911 calls. I worked for 11 years as a DeKalb County police officer. Chief Patrick and I worked side by side. The answering of the calls is only one solution to the problem. The conditions and where these individuals reside is another, and where we work. And this is what we have to deal with. And I want those citizens to know that I remain committed and dedicated to the word that I gave when I gave that oath on December 1st of 2019. And I stand here and I say that with conviction and passion, and I will continue to fight for DeKalb County Sheriff Office and all the citizens that I love. I'm from here, I work here, I live here, and I play here. And I don't walk in fear. I don't fear anybody. I only fear one person, and that's God. And I'm going to continue to do what God has ordered me to do, and that's to walk in the path to keep my community safe. Thank you, and you all have a good day.
Will any of the officers inside the jail be held accountable?
All right, that press conference there in DeKalb County that happened moments before we got on the stream regarding escaped inmates, DeKalb County, Metro Atlanta area. We heard from the sheriff there in DeKalb County. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. So this afternoon, a major milestone for Charlotte's The Pearl. You probably heard of it. We've done a few stories on The Pearl. So for the first time, we're seeing plans for people to actually live inside this medical innovation hub. You take a look at it here on your screen. WCNC Charlotte's Walker Lawson is there outside The Pearl. Talks about the next phase of what could come. Walk us through, again, the future of The Pearl.
Yeah, still very early stages, of course. We kind of heard sound from Atrium and Pearl spokespersons last week at a Mecklenburg County meeting that said that we're really only just at the beginning. This is what they would say around the 3% mark. So this is really an early step in the Pearl. But again, as you mentioned, we've covered some of the innovation that has started to take place here. But right where I'm standing on this sidewalk, this plot of land behind me will become the first residential spot here for the Pearl, and it's been something that's in the works. Of course, Nick, we talk a little bit about development in different hubs. You have LoSo, you have South End, you have the Iron District, which is now coming to light, and now you have the Pearl. This is the first time we've been able to see any documents of what this is going to look like. They had mentioned it in the Mecklenburg Commissioner meeting, but they didn't show any renderings, so I went ahead and reached out to the city since they said they had submitted plans, and the city finally was able to send that rendering back to us this morning. So again, we're looking at around 384 units for this living space, and it will also have to feature a certain amount of affordable housing. So that will contribute to about 5% of this specific project right here.
A lot to be excited for, Walker. You can catch Walker at 5 and 6 o'clock this evening. Walker, thank you for your time, man.
Thank you.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. I joked earlier, but it's reality. I mean, we're kind of having like California weather right now here in the Charlotte area. It feels great. It's only going to go up from here. Where I mean, we're talking about some record highs. Christmas Day. Can't complain about that. I know a lot of people want white Christmases. I'm not a big fan of white Christmases. Super cold weather, so this is just fine for me. Let's check in on our forecast. Let's check in with meteorologist Brittany Van Voorhees.
Happy Tuesday, everyone, and Merry Christmas Eve. It is December 23rd, and it certainly doesn't feel like it outside. Probably the biggest change from yesterday, other than the fact that we'll be warmer today, is that yesterday saw sunshine, then clouds. Today we're starting off with clouds with more sunshine building in throughout the afternoon. Temperatures are warmer with most spots reaching the 60s. Tomorrow, we're looking at potential for record highs and then near record, but likely not getting there on the 25th. So first things first, before the sunshine comes out, winds are going to be pretty breezy today. We'll see gust potential upwards of 20 to 25 miles an hour. So this is not your inflatables, right? Your holiday decorations down the street, but they could be tipping over at times. I wouldn't say it is any super big precaution that you need to take, but just be watching those. And if you're someone who likes to bring the inflatables down when it's gusty wind-wise outside, probably want to do that today just in case. Temperature-wise, we're in the mid-60s, again close to 10 degrees warmer than yesterday, mid-50s up in the mountains. But as we look ahead, of course, we know that things are changing. First things first, we feel the warmth overnight. So temps this morning were right around 40. Tomorrow we're close to 48, which is again about 10 degrees above average. So that trend just keeps on coming. Anytime you see southwest or southerly there on our wind speeds, that oftentimes indicates that we're getting warmer air coming in from the south and southwest. Typically this means somewhere along the Gulf, or of course sometimes even the Atlantic near the Gulf Stream, right, when it comes to that warmth coming into the Carolinas. So we're pumping in that warmth. At the same time, we have a cold front that's going to try to move through the area, bringing that backdoor cold front in. But because it's a backdoor front, we're not really going to get that true cool feel. And with all of this action happening across the Carolinas, all of this warmth, kind of air masses trying to collide, we're just going to continuously see this progressive warmer temperatures over the next few days. I do think that backdoor front, though, will impact how warm we are heading into the 26th. So that will have an impact on that. So here's your warmest Christmases here in Charlotte, 77, 1955. That's why I don't think we're going to break the record, but we're certainly looking to at least tie 2015 right now, which was the second warmest. What is interesting to note is that some of these were a really long time ago, right? Number 5 and number 6, 1879, 1889, but 3 of these have happened in the last 10 years, and that includes this year in 2025. So record high potential, pretty good on Christmas Eve, as I mentioned before. Likely not going to get there, but still well above average on Christmas Day. Kwanzaa, seeing more clouds with that backdoor front, so we will be cooler, but even as we're cooler on Friday, we are still expected to be close to 10 degrees above normal. And then Saturday is a day where once again we could break more records. But Sunday looks to be a transition day. That's when we'll start to see some changes. That's because we start to see a big trough of low pressure start to dip in from the jet stream. Sundays will be a progressive cool down, so it's still in the 60s, but by Monday you're really noticing that cool down, and then a secondary trough starts to dig in by the end of really the 2-week forecast, and this is likely going to bring us even more cool air eventually. So we know that all good things, and when I say good things, at least in this case I'm talking about the warmth, will eventually come to an end. Notice we go from highs Thursday and Saturday from 74 all the way down to 45 Monday and 40 on Tuesday. So it does look like we're going to see a pretty chilly end to 2025 and start to a new year. Here's that Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. So even though Sunday does see that transitionary day, still in the 60s, still a very nice day for our last Panthers home game. But look at the difference between Sunday and Monday. I mean, I think everybody can agree, whether you like this weather or you like that weather, that it is going to be a substantial shock to the system. Have a great rest of your week, folks. Enjoy the holiday, and happy holidays to you and your fam.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertman, and we want to go to St. Paul, Minnesota, where Governor Tim Walz, Twin Cities community leaders met with reporters earlier today, to discuss the public safety of Minnesotans as the federal government continues to ramp up immigration efforts there in that area. Let's take you now to that press conference in case you missed it.
My whole damn life. And I think everybody in this room knows what they're doing. So we're here today to say enough of this. We're here today to stand that Minnesota will protect their neighbors, to tell those folks who are out there who are too scared to send your children to school, who are too scared to visit a local business, who are too worried about maybe picking up extra food during the holidays at the food banks. We will do all we can to make those corridors safe for you, to make sure you're able to do what you need to do. So I'm grateful for the leadership in this room. I'm grateful that the folks who have been standing up time and time again. I'm grateful to our faith community that took this out of the political realm and made this about humanity. And the reason we're here, like all of you had, we hear rumors, we hear suggestions of things, because it's how they operate, that there will be an increased presence. I would tell you, if I were a betting person, they will do it over these holiday seasons because it makes it especially cruel. It makes it especially mean-spirited. It makes it especially traumatizing for communities that wish to gather and to celebrate in their faith on these most important of the high holidays in all of our faiths. So I would fully expect, and we are preparing for, an influx of more agents, more of the very visible public theatrics of the raids, of the harassments, and you got faith leaders here. I would not put it past this administration to target midnight mass services amongst folks going to worship, because that's who they are. And God knows they're not going to church, or if they are, they're not doing it the way that we were taught. So with that, I'm going to turn to somebody who I've trusted on these things. And again, I've said it. You don't need your elected officials to give you a sermon. They should try and live one. So I know if I want to hear a sermon, I usually come and listen to Bishop Howell, because it's worth your time to do so and opening up this space. So with that, I'm going to turn it to Bishop Howell.
Thank you, Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Governor. As Bishop of the Pentecostal Assemblies of the World and as Board Chair of the Minnesota Council of Churches, I must speak to the fear we are witnessing of our communities. Across Minnesota, families are living with anxiety, parents afraid to go to work, children afraid to come home to empty houses, neighbors afraid that an ordinary day could turn into a permanent separation. When people are taken from jobs, homes, and daily life without warning, the result is not order, it is chaos. That's right. When families are torn apart, the damage is not temporary, it is lasting.
Yes.
Our faith traditions are clear. God places a high value on family, on the protection of children, and on the dignity of every human being. Scripture commands us to do no harm, to care for the vulnerable, and to resist systems that crush the spirit of God's people. Fear is not how healthy communities are built.
That's right.
Trauma is not how children thrive, and separation is not justice. As people of faith, we must say plainly, policies and practices that generate widespread fear and break families apart demand moral scrutiny.
Yes.
So we call for approaches that uphold human dignity,
Yes, sir.
preserve family unity, and reflect the justice and mercy that God requires of us all.
Yes, amen.
May your flag, God bless you.
Governor Walz, thank you for bringing us together. Bishop Howell, thank you for having us in this sacred space here in Shiloh. Mayor Melvin Carter, representatives, leaders, religious and beyond from around the state. It's really good to be here, but during this trying and difficult time, it's especially tough. You know, before coming over here, I dropped my 2 kids off at daycare. And I dropped them off with the full confidence that they're going to have a whole day of learning, and then I'm going to see them again tonight. I'm going to pick them up, we're going to go home, we're going to have dinner, and we're going to be a family. This is the kind of confidence that every single father, regardless of where you're from or what zip code you grew up in, should have. Here at Shiloh, we know that. Here at Shiloh, as the governor correctly stated, we've been here during times of grief and strife. We've been here during times of celebration. Go back just a few years ago, crime was high. What did we do when crime was high? What did we do when safety was a paramount concern as it is now? We got together. We worked together. And while so many people talk about the North Side in terms of crime and violence, right now, because of that partnership, crime is at a near record low, right here on the North Side. But here's the point. We do partner with other jurisdictions. We partnered with the federal government, with the U.S. Attorney's Office, with a number of federal agencies to drive down crime because crime was the focus. The difference is that clearly crime is not the focus in these terroristic acts that are coming to our communities right now. Crime is not the focus when you are tearing a father away from his family who has done nothing wrong. Crime is not the focus when you are detaining an American citizen for no reason other than the fact that he is Somali or he is Latino. Crime is not the focus when you're dragging a pregnant woman through the street, and crime is not the focus when you are specifically focusing on communities based on the color of their skin. Where crime is the focus, Minneapolis is ready to partner to keep people safe. But that is not the case with this federal administration right now. And I got to tell you, I am increasingly concerned because of the chaos that is being caused by these ICE agents, that somebody is gonna get seriously injured or killed. Somebody is gonna get seriously injured or killed. And whether that is an ICE agent or a community member, we all know the tinderbox that could explode because of it. We all know that the federal government is looking for reasons to deploy more and more people to Minneapolis and blue cities around the country. We all know that we cannot afford to lose a single Minneapolis resident because they showed up and decided to protect their neighbors.
That's right.
Because they showed up and decided to express their constitutional right to free speech. And so that concern is deep. It is held, by the way, not just by me and our residents and the people who are standing up behind me. The concern about getting somebody killed is also held by our police officers who are short-staffed, who are working tirelessly in response to 911 calls and to keep people safe throughout our city. We do not need them pulled into circumstances that they themselves do not control, where chaos reigns supreme and where chaos is being pushed on our cities. That is not a recipe for safety. So again, in Minneapolis, we want safety. On the north side, we are achieving safety with record lows in terms of gunshots.
Yes, sir.
But we need to do even more right now, and we need to do it with wide eyes, recognizing what the Trump administration is pushing right now. It has nothing to do with safety at all. It has to do with division. And so thank you so much to all the partners here that are behind us. We're standing tall, we're standing true, and we're standing on the side of our immigrant communities. And I have the honor here of introducing Mayor Melvin Carter.
Thank you.
Mr. Governor, Mr. Mayor, thank you so much. Bishop, we thank you for opening your home to us and welcoming us into this space. As we prepare, my family and I, to celebrate the holidays, that's what the American dream has been. Bishop, when I grew up in the St. Paul Public Schools, what I learned in first grade and in second grade and in 11th grade and 12th grade is the thing that makes America great. The thing that makes us know for a fact that this country is a beacon on the hill is the fact that people can look from other countries, from other continents, from across the river, and risk it all to get here. That, for all of my life, has been the badge of honor that this country has worn.
Yes.
And for some reason, Bishop, and I shouldn't say for some reason because it appears to be this de-evolution that has occurred. As the waves of immigrants that our country, that our state, that our communities have received, have transitioned from European countries to Asian and African countries. Then suddenly, immigration became a bad word. Suddenly, people who are here because their ancestors got on a ship and said there's a better life in America, want to denigrate people who came here because there's a better life in America. You know, when I came into office, we said we can make our community much more safe. But the trick is, we can't do it by turning law enforcement against community members. That's right. We can't do it by being a destabilizing factor in our communities. And we can't do it by waiting until after a crime has occurred. You can't prevent crime after a crime has occurred. That's just as simple as gravity. And so we launched our Community First Public Safety Framework, and just like you, Mayor Fry, we've had incredible progress in this city.
Yes.
We've brought gun violence down by 70%. We've increased our case clearance rate for non-fatal shootings by a factor of 3. And we see gun violence in our community at a historic low. As a matter of fact, we see all types of violent crime in our community down double digits. We've done that because we believe in a model of public safety that makes our community members safer. We believe in a model of public safety that provides a stabilizing factor, not chaos in our communities. And sadly right now, one of our biggest opponents in this approach that's been so successful in St. Paul, so successful in Minneapolis, so successful in communities across the color, our biggest opponent is our own weaponized federal government. Our biggest opponent is our own weaponized federal government who says put America first but arrests American citizens. Wow. Who says this is about ending violent crime and goes and arrests workers on their way to work.
That's right.
Who says that we care about you and we care for you and then goes and separates families from their children. That's right. Mayor Fry said it, this isn't public safety.
It's not. No.
This isn't public safety at all. But it's easy to recognize what it is. When I look at my neighbors on the east side of St. Paul and see them worried, Bishop, before they leave the house, to make sure they have their papers so they're not harassed by law enforcement, I recognize that. I recognize Jim Crow.
No.
I recognize apartheid. You show me an era where people had to carry papers to keep from getting harassed and arrested by government agents. I'll show you an era of profound human rights abuses.
That's right. That's right.
And so we say to our neighbors, we stand with you. Your mayor stands with you. Your governor stands with you. Your legislators stand with you. Your mayor-elect stands with you. We stand with you in building a community that works for all of us. We stand with you in saying that our neighborhoods deserve to be safe and peaceful. And so when someone breaks our social contract, we're going to investigate. We're going to come find you. We're going to arrest you for actions that you did. And that our police officers, our local law enforcement, will never, ever, ever criminalize someone because of their identity.
That's right.
And by the way, when Mayor Fry says they're arresting people based on how they look, he's not making that up. He says that because they have said they're arresting people because of the way that they look.
That's right.
That's just them saying what their goal is. That's un-American. That's inhumane. And it doesn't match anything I've ever read about who we have historically aspired to be as a member of the world community. Wow. So I just say God bless all of you. God bless all of you for standing here and being here. We are the movement. We are our neighbors. And we're all here because we know that we are all one. Thank you.
Thank you.
I stand corrected. Sometimes you do need your elected officials to give you a sermon. Look, our message is clear. We want you in Minnesota. You're valued here. Human rights matter. Rule of law matters. Due process matters. To our Somali community, you're seen, valued, loved, heard. Welcome here. To our Hmong community, to our Hispanic community, pretty much everybody but one person's welcome here. With that, we'll take questions. Yes.
Governor Walz, good morning. You all have described a very upsetting and disturbing pattern of behavior. I'm wondering if the conduct you have seen ICE agents engage in recent days, in your assessment, violates any Minnesota statute, and if there's anything you're contemplating doing in the way of accountability beyond having press conferences like these.
Yeah, thank you. This is a great question. The question was, are we seeing behavior out of these federal agents that violates Minnesota law? I'll have Commissioner Jacobson talk a little bit about this, because this is really tricky, and you heard it from the mayors, that we've always coordinated together. And I think the position we're putting these local law enforcement and state patrol in is these folks come in unannounced, don't tell us, they create chaos, it gathers people onto the streets, then we've got traffic control, we've got other things going on, and the true law enforcement has to come in and clean that up, and they get blended in and associated with them. Oops, excuse me. I can tell you one of the things that that we are looking at and targeting is these guys are violating Minnesota law by changing license plates. Wow. They're doing what criminals do. They're putting on license plates on vehicles they're not registered to. So they're renting vehicles and putting on fake plates. We've seen where they're putting on fake Uber stickers so they drive in so people think it is. That's not law enforcement, that's criminal activity. And I got to be honest with you, in Minnesota, if you have a health concern, which we've done during COVID, you mask up. If you're in a hospital operating room, you mask up. You don't do that on a daily basis. And I got to tell you what, you don't see it out of State Patrol. You don't see it out of Commissioner Jacobson. You don't think he doesn't receive threats? You don't think all of them receive threats? And yet we stand out here to do that. So I'll let the Commissioner talk a little bit about this. But they put us in a really, really difficult situation, because the standing rule is when law enforcement agencies are doing their job, they may have to double park behind a car if they're doing their significant job. Or if they are moving to an event, they may have to exceed the speed limit. We have no communication with these folks knowing what they're doing. So if they drive recklessly, which I think you heard it here, if they act recklessly, if they're changing license plate, those things are violation of Minnesota law. So Bob, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Good morning, everyone. Again, Bob Jacobson, I'm the Commissioner of Public Safety for the state of Minnesota, and I appreciate the question. Number one, I want to thank everyone who's here today to stand with the governor and the mayors and our elected officials to talk about the impact that some of the federal enforcement efforts have had in our community. What I pondered this morning is I go back always to something called appeals principles. And so for those who think about policing and look at the history of policing, they go back to the father of policing. His name is Sir Robert Peel, who talked about policing and police are the community are the police, and that without police and community relations and relationships, it's difficult to make law enforcement work well in communities. And clearly, I think in the city of Minneapolis and the city of St. Paul, they've demonstrated that working with communities is what's really important to make sure that we have safe communities, and we've seen some really great results from all of that. When it comes to investigations or review of federal enforcement efforts, number one, any investigation would have to include federal officials if there's a belief that federal law enforcement have committed a crime. Looking at video simply is not enough for any law enforcement officer in the state of Minnesota to necessarily determine if a crime has occurred. Investigations need to occur for those, for any allegations of crime. And certainly anytime there's a report of misconduct or allegations of misconduct, or we believe that policing has been improper, the first step is normally you reach out to that law enforcement agency and ask them to do an internal affairs investigation and investigate. So my suggestion is that if we feel and we see that there is any misconduct by our federal law enforcement agencies, reach out to those federal law enforcement agencies and report any misconduct, misbehavior, anything that you think should be investigated. That would be their role. And so the responsibility for the ethics, the responsibility for the use of force, the responsibility for the tactics that are being used lies with the leadership of those federal law enforcement agencies, and that's where those questions should go. And I would highly suggest and recommend that anyone with those concerns contact them directly.
But have you all contacted any federal law enforcement about specific incidents that
Yes.
called the U.S. Attorney's Office, the head of DHS locally? What kind of concerns have you raised at that level, if any?
First of all, we do not coordinate with law enforcement, federal law enforcement, when it comes to immigration enforcement. So we've made that very clear. There are channels that go back and forth with the U.S. Attorney's Office. There are certainly channels that go back and forth with federal law enforcement agencies. What we always recommend and suggest to federal law enforcement and our own law enforcement is use de-escalation tactics, use proper procedures and processes, use best tactics when you're enforcing laws in the state of Minnesota, and that we in Minnesota we have high expectations, as been demonstrated for our law enforcement officers in this state, and we would expect that federal law enforcement agents and agencies have high expectations for those that are doing that work in federal law enforcement functions. So if you didn't hear the question, it's if we've had any communication with federal law enforcement or Homeland Security. Again, there are some ongoing communications. The communications are not about coordinating any immigration enforcement. We still do continue to have relationships when it comes to other investigations, and so if there are other investigations that do not include immigration enforcement, we do have some communications that go back and forth.
Yeah, everything is speculative with this administration, but we start to see patterns of their activities and some of the chatter they see, and I don't know who they coordinate with here. But I would go back to it again. I think it's meant to be the most sensational. We see activity step up when the president's getting in more trouble. If it's, you know, he starts bombing ships in the Caribbean and starts, because the Epstein stuff is obviously real. So a lot of it is just our experience so far when they start to ramp up. And you see it coordinated. Over the last few days, we've received attacks from almost every single agency, freezing our SNAP benefits. The commissioner of wrestling who sets at the education department is now coming at us. So you see a coordinated effort. They speak with a lot of voices. I think you saw a Congress that's on recess that couldn't get us health care is now opening an investigation, and well, I'm sure will drag me back there to sit for 8 hours as they talk nonsense. These people are not serious. We take them serious in terms of the damage they do. I think probably they'll want to see some good footage coming out over the holidays because it'll be especially cinematic for them, or however they think about it. So that's where we'll be prepared. Yeah, we just make folks so that they're safe to come visit these places. So I know. I know. We're out here trying to show people. We're going there ourselves and standing there. I'm sure they'll see, you know, and I think these folks have been out there making it uncomfortable for them to be at places where we're trying to be as visible as possible. Let them know, and you'll hear it time and time again, our job isn't and never has been immigration reform. And so I think the biggest thing is when you see state officials, you see elected officials, you see your neighbors, whatever, we're just trying to make sure that you're not traumatized. So we'll do the best we can to bring some normalcy, but I'm under no illusion. Folks are scared. They don't want to come out. You've seen at the malls, their businesses dropped off 75–80% for these entrepreneurs. But that's par for the course because this administration just simply destroys the economy, and that's what they're doing in this case. Yeah, I think, and I again, you'd say what you will, those are people expressing their First Amendment rights. I'm glad Glad to see our neighbors out there. They're being observant of where people are at. They're watching how these folks are operating. We'll continue to watch and see, you know, just the stuff of the switching the license plates or whatever, but it's pretty easy to recognize these folks in darked out windows with masks on and being really out of place because they're not Minnesotan in the first place. They're coming from out of state, and they don't act like us because they're cruel. And I don't know. Bishop, I'll ask you, we'll pray for them over the next few days.
Let's do one more. Will the mayor's address will be done at the local level to prepare for the second?
So the question was, could Mayor Carter and I address what is going to be done and what has been done to address a potential influx over the holidays. The preparation that we're presently undertaking is not new. It's been something that we've been working on for many, many months right now. This is everything from preemptive lawsuits to responsive lawsuits, coordination with the ACLU to make sure that those that do have standing to sue have the right contacts so that they're able to do so. There's also a task force that we have set up that we're able to work and coordinate directly with. And so while we do not coordinate with any federal agency around immigration enforcement work, we do coordinate with our community members to make sure that we're exchanging information, that we're able to communicate out what's going on when it's happening, we're able to receive information back up so that we're able to run a command and control. We also have a number of plans with our law enforcement to make sure that we are able to view illegal and or constitutional activity where it's taking place. We've seen that community members are out there with cell phones recording. Well, our police officers also have body cameras. And we're making sure that the right kind of policing, the right kind of constitutional community-based policing is what we in Minneapolis are focused on. And at the same time, if the rumors are true, and we're seeing as many as 3 times the number of ICE agents coming into our city that we have presently, yeah, the reality is that we as a police department do not have enough bodies to both do the regular day-to-day work and simultaneously be everywhere all at once as these immigration raids are happening. And the concerning part, of course, is that the people coming into our city, 1, don't know our city, 2, don't know constitutional policing. These are not people largely that have gotten tons of training around how to de-escalate tense situations.
That's right.
They've recently gotten some cash. They come out to Minneapolis from somewhere else in the country without knowing the community and without knowing how to respond. The bottom line is there is no plan that they are presently executing. Do we have a plan? Yes, we have a plan to be responsive. Do they have a plan? The answer appears to be no. They are causing chaos, and I want to emphasize this one last thing here again. I am gravely concerned that if we continue on this present trajectory, somebody is going to get killed.
Yeah, that's right.
And whether that's a federal agent or that is a community member, somebody is going to get killed. And we should be speaking out now to prevent that kind of thing from happening, as opposed to being really frustrated and upset with it after the fact. Let's stop the chaos. Let's actually care about safety, and let's do things right.
Amen.
That's true, and you know, I don't want to just repeat the things that Mayor Fry said. Maybe the one thing I disagree with is there does seem to be a plan, and it does seem to be that chaos that you're talking about, to intentionally create chaos and frankly to get us to take the bait, to give them an excuse to escalate against us and against our neighbors, and that's a challenge. But I do actually agree with your point. You know, as we look at just the way they operate in community, it's not safe. It's not technically sound. It's clear that they don't have the training to step into the roles that they're stepping into. They don't have the proper kind of procedure to do any of the things that they're doing safely, and it's incredibly dangerous. And again, it's important to note that they're exposing our communities to this danger. Again, just a couple of weeks ago, we had a raid at a warehouse business in St. Paul. they arrested 14 people, and the next day or 2 days after that, issued a statement that said one of those people had a prior charge. Now, I assume those federal agents know the difference between a charge and a conviction. So that means they arrested 14 people, and not a single one of them has ever been convicted of a crime.
That's wrong.
That means they arrested 14 people in a workplace who were just 14 people going to work that day, trying to be productive members of community. To your question, we have complained about many things. One specific thing that that we were very frustrated about in one of the other actions that they took in our city. They had an individual in handcuffs with a head wound and attempted to refuse our paramedics the ability to take that person and get them the medical attention that they required. I want to thank our paramedics for explaining basic human rights to those ICE agents who are in that space. So yes, we're doing all the work that Mayor Fry described. And we have to work closely with the rapid responder groups and the protest leaders to not take the bait. Because their goal is to get us to fight against each other. Their goal is for them to come in here and go out and get me to say, Bishop, you didn't do enough. Archbishop, you didn't do enough. Commissioner, I'm mad at you because of what they did. That's their goal. And so our job is to work together proactively to ensure that we're all on the same page and that we're not taking the bait of hating one another because of their actions. The final thing I want to say is I want to ask us, here's what we can do. Because it's easy to feel helpless. Because I know many of us, Commissioner, thank you for your service and thank you for the work of the folks that you talk to. But as we encounter this reality that if we think federal officials have broken a law or broken human rights, who we get to complain to is federal law enforcement agencies. I know while many of us wonder if our U.S. Supreme Court has the capacity of being a backstop for justice, it can feel helpless. So my request to everybody at home watching this is really two things. One, we just told you that shopping and traffic in places like Carmel Mall, in places like District del Sol, in places like Hmong Village and Hmongtown Market in St. Paul is down significantly. That's the livelihood of community members. That's the livelihood, not just of those store owners, but of the people who work there. And that's a part of their strategy, because a part of this conversation that we don't talk about enough is self-deportation. And when we see 1 million people self-deport, it means the federal government has been so successful at making life in America so terrible for 1 million people that they've decided to just go someplace they already decided to leave, that they already decided to flee, that they already decided wasn't good enough for their children. And so my request number one is go shop, go spend your money. Get off the couch and go spend your dollars in ways that support our community. Request number two is it's so easy for me to stand at this microphone and say and shout that I don't like what they're doing. It's harder for me to not just say the opposite, but to be the opposite. And we stand in a house. We're in some of those beautiful and terrible times.
Yes.
I have heard a call for our better angels from inside.
Yes.
And our better angels can't just come out when everybody else's better angels are out. Our better angels have to be out every day.
Amen.
And so our request as we do that work, and I have to acknowledge our mayor-elect who's leading some of that work with our rapid responder and protest groups. Our request is as we go and document what they're doing. Because, you know, sometimes if you can't make people do right, you can turn on the light. So as we document what they're doing, Our request, our demand is for us to be humane, is for us to cease violence, is for us to not add to the chaos, is for us to not add to the division, for us to operate ourselves in ways that history will look at us, and all of our children and our grandchildren and their grandchildren will look at their videos and know who's in the right,
Amen.
Who's on the side of justice, who's on the side of love,
right.
Who's on the side of humanity.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kali Herb, Mayor-elect of...
All right, so you're watching their press conference from St. Paul, Minnesota. You hear from officials there, Governor Tim Walz, mayors from St. Paul, also Minneapolis, speaking out, talking about public safety as the federal government continues to ramp up immigration efforts there in Minnesota. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. An exciting week for Panthers fans. Got a big win against the Buccaneers and have a big matchup ahead. The last regular season home game for the Panthers could be a big one if they win against the Seattle Seahawks. Great news. Better news if the Buccaneers lose to the Dolphins. So a lot at play here. But look, the Bank of America Stadium was electric this past Sunday, and it was a great vibe. It reminded me of those 2015, 2016, 2017 teams here in for the Carolina Panthers, where that stadium was just packed, not an empty seat, standing room only. So a great feeling. Hopefully we can keep this momentum going. Bryce Young, the offense, also the defense playing better. Let's get now to Panthers on the Plus. Danielle Stein, and we had a special guest, Mac from WFNZ Radio, talking with Danielle about the Panthers and what they need to do, and a little recap from the Saints game.
All right, it is the end of Week 16, going into Week 17 in the NFL, and your Carolina Panthers right now sitting once again in first place in the NFC South, which is crazy to say with 2 weeks to go in the regular season. Their fate is in their own hands. A little bit more too if they, look a little bit closer to what the Bucs are doing too. But we're going to look more into that as we welcome in our guest for the week, Chris McClain. Thank you so much for joining us from WFNZ. I know we saw each other at the game yesterday. It was such a good day. It was fun. It was great weather. The fans were there in droves. I mean, they talked about how they really impacted some of the games with some of those big calls, like some of those false starts and delay of game calls. Like the Panthers team was really crediting the crowd. So everything seemed to work out in their favor. They got the win. Now they have 2 weeks left. Just kind of what's your take on just, first of all, being here in first place at the end of December?
I didn't know that was legal, Danielle. I had to check the rule book. I didn't know that was legal for the Panthers to be in first place when it's Christmas. You talk about a Merry Christmas, and you're right. That day yesterday at the bank was electric. It brought back so many memories. I feel like it's been a decade. I mean, I think it's flat out been a decade since I have been at that place, and it's been rocking like that. It was beautiful. That's what it's supposed to be about. You know, that's what sports is supposed to be about. That's why we love it. The sense of community, the excitement, the gathering together, and the unleashing of joy. And, man, it happened yesterday, and I'm still pinching myself over it. The catch, though, is their work is still not done, which they have pointed out, since then, is they still have work to do. But dang, for a day yesterday, all felt right with the sports world. It really did.
It really did. Of course, it's very full circle for so many things. Once Baker Mayfield is stepping back out onto the field at the bank, Dave Canales and Brad Idzik, who of course were with the Bucs. So all these familiar faces, teams who know each other so well, but of course the NFL doing what they do best in scheduling these two teams to play each other twice in the last 3 weeks of the season. I mean, they know that the story was just going to write itself, right?
Oh, clearly. They had this all in mind. They did. And half the people out there, or more, will probably tell you, hey, the script already written. Yeah, the script is already written for the NFL. So, but, and how about the fact that, the Panthers have Baker as kind of their, arch enemy in this battle. But then Sam Darnold, the other former quarterback that was cast off, is another one that, if you can get through him, and if somehow next week Miami is able to upset Baker and the Bucs, then you can win the division that way as well. So it really is crazy. It's really dramatic as heck. And I mean, it has been way too long in this town that football was like this in December. I got to be honest. It has been so much fun talking it up on the radio. I'm sure you've enjoyed yourself. Like, this is way better, Danielle, than worrying about draft positioning and asking the audience, hey, do we want to win the game this week, or do we want to lose the last couple games so we can
bring out the big boards, right?
Oh my God, that kind of stuff's horrible. This is what sports talk's supposed to be.
I completely agree, and I know you are, seasoned here in the market, and you've seen a lot. This is my first season here in Carolina, so all I know is this at this point. But it's definitely a lot of fun to be part of this for my first season covering the Panthers in Carolina. But like we said, it's been a decade since the Panthers were in a position to push to be winning the NFC South. Actually back in 2015 was the last time that they actually did it. So as we're getting down to these final couple weeks, there's a couple different playoff scenarios still on hand, and obviously the easiest way is beat the Bucs twice, which we know, but there's still a couple other scenarios out there where the Panthers might need to keep their eyes out on some other games happening. And Scott Fowler from the Charlotte Observer this morning asked head coach Dave Canales a little bit about how a team handles looking at other games if they're going on at the same time, and how you approach them with your own team, knowing different results equal different outcomes for their playoff fate. So I want to run this, and then I want to talk to you about what your thoughts are on how teams kind of handle these types of situations.
So on Sunday, you need a very particular result for it to matter, really. You win, Tampa Bay loses. So I wonder, first of all, will you keep an eye on the Tampa Bay score throughout the game?
I will not. We can't approach it that way. We have to make sure, especially for us, I appreciate the question, but as we're trying to create consistency in our product of what we do on the field, game in and game out, that's what we're after, and that's what's out there for us to find our best football. We have to approach it that way, and we have to make sure that we approach this game plan that way as the game, continues to go however it goes. It's like, I'm trying to win this down. I'm trying to win this series right here, and we all have to be locked in there. We can't afford to do that in the place that we're in collectively as a team. We have to continue to find consistent football.
I appreciate that. And one other thing related to that, and that is you have to prepare for all outcomes, good and bad. So if you're down by 3 scores, say in the fourth quarter, ultimately the Seattle game's pretty meaningless for you no matter what's happening in Tampa Bay. Would you at that point consider sitting starters a little earlier, knowing you have to beat the Bucs in the finale?
I don't envision us doing that. That's a conversation that Dan and I have to have philosophically about how we're approaching this. But again, I think it kind of goes back to answering it the same way. All of these reps are so valuable. Every series, as we continue to grow together as a team, every series matters as we're trying to develop our schemes and our concepts and make sure that we go into each week with that, and then so that we can learn the lessons, so that we can take the next step when the Bucs week comes on. But all of our focus has to be right here, right now, on the Seahawks.
I've got to ask you, if you are head coach Dave Canales, are you reaching into your pocket and taking a look at your ESPN app and seeing what the Bucs-Dolphins game looks like? Or do you buy this kind of coach talk that he's saying, that it's really just focusing on yourselves and, ignoring what else is happening across the league?
First of all, Danielle, if I'm coaching the Panthers, there's no way we're in first place right now. All right, I can talk about it. Y'all don't want me in charge. There's no doubt about that. It was interesting. Both questions are different, right? And it's interesting. The first one, I completely would feel like I don't want my head coach worried in the middle of a game that they have to win about what's going on elsewhere, right? Just do your job. Try to get the win. If you're lucky enough to get the win against, oh, by the way, the best team in the NFC. It's the second time that they have the best team in the NFC record-wise at the time coming in here. Last time they won. They beat the Rams. So I think on that one, that feels kind of simple, at least for him. I'm sure other people in the organization will be checking the score down there in Miami. The second question is interesting, though. I do think it's something maybe he doesn't want to talk about right now, which is a scenario, hypothetical, where they're losing by like 21 points in the fourth quarter. I can see why he doesn't want to entertain that. But I do think if there's a situation where, okay, this game is basically lost, we need the game next week, I do think sitting some starters might be something that is a good idea at that point in time. But I also can see why he doesn't want to answer a question. Hey, yeah, if we're losing by 3, you know what I mean? I don't know if that's a hypothetical he wants to get into, Right.
You don't want to necessarily put that out into the universe now that you're going to be in that kind of a situation. But it is also true when we're talking about game reps and, keeping guys fresh, albeit, it's week 17. They're pretty fresh from having, 16 and a half prior weeks of football already under their belts. But it's going to be interesting to see that. Obviously it's a hypothetical, but we do know that it's a very good team coming here, but they've beat some very good teams. Of course, you mentioned the Rams, the Packers, just to name a few. We're going to take a quick pause, and then when we come back, we're going to keep on this, and then we're going to dive a little bit more into Bryce Young and his game too.
All right, folks, real quick before we take a break, I'm Colin Mayfield here for the next hour on WCNC Plus. We're going to get back to this conversation as the Panthers have a huge game this upcoming weekend. Again, we'll talk football right after this 2-minute break. All right, everyone. We're going to go back to the Panthers in just a second. We did want to say that there's a flash flood watch that's going into effect starting tonight at 4 p.m. that'll run until 10 p.m. tomorrow night, so Christmas. Very unusual weather in terms of seeing this much rain in a short period of time, although we are in a La Nina type of pattern. So there's an evacuation warning in effect from 11 p.m. on Thursday for the
For Los
Palisades.
Angeles, yep.
Sunset and Hurstbourne, Scar area. Sorry. Okay, this is in California. So LAPD issuing evacuation orders, and man, there's been some crazy scenes out in LA. So we're waiting for this press conference to begin, which will be live, and I'm sure that a lot of folks are getting prepared for this. A lot of vulnerabilities, obviously, during this time of year and the holidays with Christmas Eve tomorrow. So we'll go to this when we have it live. But for now, we're going to go back to Danielle Stein as they talk about this big win that they just got and then the upcoming week ahead.
Hypotheticals for when the Seahawks come to town for the Panthers' last home regular, season game. We will see what happens, obviously, just in a couple weeks from now. But as we know, Seahawks are a very good team, and they're coming in maybe not as much something to prove because they're, one of the best teams in the NFL, one of the best in the NFC. We've seen a little bit of teetering in terms of the rankings, but they are going to be a dominant force. The Panthers have done pretty well against some of the top teams, though. It seems like they kind of play to the level of their opponents. Sometimes you can look at some of the tough losses against teams like the Saints, but then you look at some good wins against teams like the Rams, the Packers, the Cowboys as examples. So when the Seahawks come to town, it'll be interesting because the Panthers would love a win. It's not necessarily crucial if they're going to clinch the division because there's still that last game coming their way in week 18 where it very well could be coming down to them in the Bucs in that regular season finale. But just the approach, I guess, from your perspective on like how the Panthers will be coming into this final regular season home game.
There is definitely no way, Danielle, that I can figure out what the heck version of the Panthers we're going to see on Saturday, right?
Sure.
This team, you said it. This team is capable of beating the best the NFL has to offer, and this team is capable of letting the Saints break out a broom and sweep us on out of the season series, between the two teams. And if they beat the Saints last week, we'd be talking about a division title right now, that's what, or heck, even the first game, one game against the Saints, and the division would be wrapped up.
Right.
I don't know. I know a lot of fans believe that the Panthers are due for a bad effort, right? Since October, they've won one and lost one, literally back and forth every week. It's hard to tell. I feel like they do rise to the occasion. I would not be shocked if they stepped up and beat Seattle. I would actually be more shocked if Miami, with a backup quarterback, whichever one they're going to start. I would be more shocked if they beat Tampa, honestly, than if the Panthers beat the Seahawks. And I just kind of felt now for the last few weeks, it just feels inevitable. Derek Brown said it himself. Derek Brown said after the Saints game, well, we don't do anything the easy way. And it just feels like that is such an apt description of the 2025 Panthers. It just feels inevitable. It's headed down to a winner-take-all game against Tampa.
Which is fun for us, obviously. I mean, probably less fun for them. I'm sure they're thinking like, oh my goodness, if we just beat the Saints last week, everything would be fine today. We'd be able to, not play our hardest for the last 2 weeks of the season. Of course, still get those reps, as Dave would talk about, but I'm sure they're definitely kicking themselves, knowing what they were able to do yesterday. This season, we have seen a number of heroic performances from Bryce Young. I think he's up to 12 now total game-winning drives in his career. I don't know I guess you would call this past weekend or as a guess because it was tied in the fourth quarter, 2020. They got down, got that game-winning field goal, that huge play, Jalen Coker as well, getting the conversion, helping to set up that game-winning field goal. Bryce did a lot of interesting things in this game too. He used his feet. He was pretty effective as a scrambler spectacular. Of course, using his arms, he found a beautiful pass to T-Mac for that touchdown. The one for JT Sanders was just like sickening, though, just how he was able to get out of the pocket and just find JT just in the end zone, ready to kind of curl it in. And again, just those other critical plays like that one I mentioned about Jalen Coker to extend that drive, eventually getting down to kick that field goal. Bryce is confident, he's smiling, and that seems like that's the best kind of Panthers team. So this is what Bryce had to say about, what he loves about these types of moments.
Moments like that, it's like, where else would you rather be? I have all the confidence in the world in our guys. I just want to be able to give them a chance, go make a play. They did a great job around me stepping up. Those plays, great pockets. They did a great job of getting open, making catches. So, I trust on those guys, and it's a fun place to be.
Is a fun place to be. When we saw Bryce do that scramble to get that touchdown to JT, what were you thinking? Because that was crazy to watch.
I was thinking, how am I going to not scream like a crazy fan in this press box? That's actually
Cardinal
what
rule.
I was thinking. And I'm not sure I even pulled that off. I'm pretty sure there was a noise coming from me. That's Bryce magic. That's Bama Bryce, as we often call it. That's the guy we watched at Alabama win a Heisman Trophy. His ability, and you've seen it the last, few weeks big time, his ability to, elude a sack and then still make a positive play. You brought up doing it with his legs. We saw multiple runs. That same drive, actually, you saw a couple big runs on that drive. You saw him also make a great play out to the left where he drew two defenders and flipped it to Mitchell Evans. Yeah. And they got a first down on that one. Like that, those improv skills are vintage Bryce. And you're right. You can see the confidence. You can see him celebrating. He's in a groove right now. Last 5 weeks, 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 107 quarterback rating. He is balling right now. And this is kind of the Bryce we saw at the end of the year last year. And I was really disappointed, Danielle, that we did not see this version of Bryce as consistently as I had hoped this year. I really thought he was going to build off of last season and have a full season like the second half of the year last year. It's been more up and down. But these last 5 weeks, he has hit stride. The way he's throwing the deep ball, he's Pro Football Focus's #1 graded deep ball passer over the last 5 weeks. He's got 10 deep completions over the last 5 weeks. You mentioned the 2 big ones yesterday. And it's somebody this morning, of course, we've got to have a killjoy in the radio audience this morning on WFNZ. Someone texted us, Danielle, was like, he only threw for 191 yards. I don't understand why that's some great game. The way the Panthers are designed, this, they're not designed to be some sort of Air Bryce. This isn't supposed to be. If he's thrown for over 300 yards, most of the time, maybe not the Falcons game when he went for 448, but most of the time it's probably a bad sign, right? That we're scrambling to come from behind. The key with Bryce is, are they balanced? Can they run it? And then can Bryce make those big plays? Timely moment, right? 3rd and 4. You go deep with a gutsy call and you hit Jalen Coker. Red zone or outside the red zone, end of the first half. You take a deep shot before you kick a field goal and you catch them in a blitz and hit T-Mac with one-on-one coverage. Like that's the way you judge Bryce. Does he make those plays in those big moments? And you said it too. The game-winning drive. He has a knack for this. You would wish that of his 14 wins, 12 of them wouldn't be ones that require him to drive the team down to take a lead late. But this is a team that isn't exactly blowing people out, right? So
right.
He's got to be clutch and he's got to make the plays late. So that's to me what Bryce is all about. Timely plays. Does he make them?
I thought it was interesting actually looking back at the box score and seeing he only had 20 yards rushing. I thought it was going to be a lot more. It felt like it was a lot more. But it's interesting when you say, he was sub 200 for passing yards. But it wasn't like any of the running backs either had these crazy games. It wasn't like one of the Statement Rico games. Everyone just kind of did their job, it felt like. No one was extraordinary. Everyone did what they needed to do, and it felt like a very team win. Is that kind of your assessment on how the day went as well?
Oh, yeah,
from the offensive side, at least. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the run game, and this has been the case, a fair amount lately. I think the run game with the running backs, was certainly a little bit of a disappointment. You got to give credit to Tampa Bay. I think they went out determined to try to slow Rico Dowdle down. Chuba had a little more success in terms of yards per carry. But I think, Dave was going to, find ways with Bryce. The Jimmy Horn run on the first drive on the end around was beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
They found ways to get just over 100 yards rushing, and then Bryce did the rest on offense. As far as like the offensive line goes, I mean, the offensive line continues to, it does, Icky's out, Josh Nyman's in, and I'm not going to say he didn't have some struggles in pass protection, but man, he had a heck of a day run blocking. How about Tommy Tremble and Mitchell Evans, the tight ends, in run blocking?
Yes.
And then, Tommy Tremble was on a mission. I don't know what someone said to him in the morning, but he came out blocking angry. The pass catchers, T-Mac and Coker, had big plays. XL missed a chance to make a couple of plays, but he got him a big, after the catch run for a first down. So, yeah, it was a team effort yesterday. I thought Coach Canales had some amazing moments in terms of play calling as well on those big pass plays, taking shots deep and catching them in blitzes. It was, this. I don't think this is a team, that's built on one guy like Pat Mahomes carrying a team. I think this is a team where everybody does their part. And then another thing, too, is look at the amount of rookies, too, that chip in. Nick Scorton, Cam Jackson, Ransom with the interception. I talked about Mitchell Evans and T-Mac. I mean, this is a fun team. They're aggravating at times, Danielle, because sometimes it feels like, man, they didn't show up at all today. What happened to them?
Right.
But this is a fun team, and you feel like this is a young team that is just growing, and it's only going to help down the road.
Yeah, you mentioned the offensive line. When we come back, I want to talk about, we heard a couple updates actually when it comes to some injuries. One of them is very positive. I think people are going to be excited to hear about. And I also want to go back to talking about those rookies when we come back, because like you mentioned, the game was sealed because of one of them. So we'll get to that in just a moment. So on
All right, everybody, we are going to have to shift to another discussion right now. Actually, Nick Sturdivant had an interview with Sheriff Gary McFadden on a number of things, safety included. So we'll go to this right now.
Don't panic if you haven't gotten your Christmas gifts yet. If some of your stuff has not gotten there yet, you still got a little bit of time.
You should definitely be panicking. It's the 23rd. You have 2 days. All your stuff should be here by now.
I'm trying to get people to calm down because not all of my stuff has come. So
that's a you problem, sir. You should have planned. You had all year to think about this.
Oh man, my family still loves me. Yeah. So okay, 2 days before Christmas, a lot to get to. One of the things we want to get to this morning, Sheriff Gary McFadden. He is here live, virtually. Sheriff McFadden, thank you. I guess I got to start with this. I started with Christmas gifts. Did you get everything yet, Sheriff McFadden?
I'm hoping I do. I'm looking for some ostrich cowboy boots. That's what I'm looking for.
Ostrich cowboy. Where do you get those?
Yeah, it's Tracovas. If anybody wants to go on South Boulevard and buy me a pair, I will gladly accept them. That would probably be my fourth pair, but I need some ostrich.
Okay,
ostrich.
All right, we're making note. We're going to do some Googles. We'll hook you up.
Please do.
Last time you were here, and it's made headlines since you left, you talked about the likely return of Border Patrol. And that has spawned off, again, headlines. Some people are concerned. A lot of people have questions. I'm sure you have questions as well about that return. What can you tell us? What are you hearing from community members, and do you have any updates?
Well, community members are very upset. They are still reeling from the last time that they were here. And we have no more answers from Border Patrol than we had last time. So what we're asking for is communication, collaboration, and cooperation. I'm going to always say those three things. But if you follow this as closely as I have been following it for the last 7 years, DHS always have an operation during the month of January. And we don't know why, but most of the time, most of the sheriffs nationally will be in Washington, D.C. for their annual conventions. So when we are away from our cities and counties, this is when Border Patrol, DHS actually has a campaign or initiative in our cities. So this is why I expected it. They have just landed in Chicago a couple of days ago, so this could be a round-robin effect.
I do want to ask about crime. We talked to Charlotte City Council member Dante Anderson. She's on a committee. There's been a conversation here in Charlotte. There are people that are concerned, and there have been conservatives, Republicans that have come out and spoken out about policies. Charlotte not doing enough when it comes to crime. From your vantage point, and also I do want to point out we have another homicide this morning in Charlotte. From your vantage point, how do you perceive what's happening in not only Charlotte and Mecklenburg County when it comes to crime?
Well, we are a growing city, and when you grow as fast as we grow, you're going to have a uptick in crime. I can tell you law enforcement is concerned about crime. We are concerned. CMPD concerned. All the townships are concerned about crime. But we don't see it as some people make it to be. Yes, there is homicide. Yes, there is crime. But what you have to also understand is we are changing our neighborhoods. People are moving in different neighborhoods that are now experiencing the same crime that some of our neighbors have experienced all along. If you think about Biddleville, historically, Biddleville has been an African-American neighborhood, a black neighborhood around Johnson C. Smith, where I went and loved my institution. But when I was at school there, the neighborhood was 99% African-American. That neighborhood has now changed, and so now these residents are experiencing things that they were not accustomed to by moving in these neighborhoods, which are the same neighborhoods that had these already problems. And so, yes, we're going to have crime. It's always going to be crime. It's always going to be a topic. But now it is affecting people who are moving into these neighborhoods that are not accustomed to these crimes, and surely they are blowing the whistle.
What do you do? What does 2026 look like? Is that top priority on your agenda?
It is top priority, but what the community always like to understand, it also takes them.
LA Mayor Karen Bass is speaking right now on the flash flood emergency that's going on in California. Let's go to this now live.
Days. I am sending everyone, the people of Los Angeles, city employees, and everyone assembled here today, my wishes for a safe and happy holiday season and a Merry Christmas. And considering the weather, we also want to make sure that the holiday season is safe. Safety is of paramount concern this week. Here today, my wishes for a safe and happy holiday season and a Merry Christmas. And considering the weather, we also want to make sure that the holiday season is safe. Safety is of paramount concern this week because, as you know, we're expecting a strong winter storm with heavy rain and wind to begin tonight through Saturday, December 27th, with the National Weather Service anticipating the heaviest rainfall today, tomorrow, and on Christmas Day. A flash flood watch will go into effect today, December 23rd at 4 p.m. through 10 p.m. Christmas Day, Thursday, December 25th. Dr. Cohen will share more on this shortly. Under my direction, the city has positioned additional resources, including heavy-duty fire engines and swiftwater rescue teams, equipment and personnel to keep Angelenos safe and respond quickly to storm impacts. Our Emergency Operations Center is activated and city crews are on standby to respond to any fallen trees or impacts to roadways. My message to Angelenos as we go into the Christmas holiday is to stay safe, be prepared, and stay informed. We encourage you, if you can, to stay off the roads, especially tonight and through the afternoon of Christmas Eve. To unhoused Angelenos and Angelenos who might have relatives that are out there, we do have a limited number of vouchers, and people can call the mayor's help desk at 213-978-0600. 213-978-0600. If you have friends or family members that are unhoused, we have a limited number of vouchers, and there is a shelter set up on the west side. Please consider heading over to family, or if you're going out of town before the rain is set tonight. Staying off the roads whenever possible keeps you safe and frees up the lanes for our first responders and public work crews. In the burn scar areas, an evacuation warning and key evacuation orders are in effect. Chief McDonald will detail those, and I urge all Angelenos, please heed official guidance. We continue to maintain a proactive approach to bolstering vulnerable hillsides throughout Pacific Palisades from earlier this year, including sandbags and 13,000 feet of K-rail to protect against mudslides and flows. We have had a number of major storms this year, and I ask all Angelenos to take this one seriously during this holiday week. Now is the time to come together and make a plan on how you can safely spend time with loved ones over the holidays. As always, please call 911 for life-threatening situations. If you see flooding or fallen trees, please report by calling 311 and report any power outages at LADWP. Sign up for emergency alerts at notifyla.org. And now let me turn it over to the meteorologist in charge with the National Weather Service, Dr. Ariel Cohen.
Thank you very much, Mayor Bass. There's very critical information that Mayor Bass passed along that could save your life and those of your loved ones. Good day, everyone. I'm Dr. Ariel Cohen, and I'm the meteorologist in charge of the National Weather Service in Los Angeles, Oxnard. We're just several hours away from the onset of a major storm system that Mayor Bass had mentioned that's going to affect many Angelenos during the Christmas holiday. This is the type of storm system that affects the area approximately every 5 to 10 years or so. But what makes this storm unique is that the brunt of the rainfall is expected to occur right through Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. My bottom line point, if you're planning to be out on the roads during the Christmas holiday, please reconsider your plans. By the time we get to late Wednesday through Friday, many areas will likely be experiencing significant flooding along with rock slides and mudslides, especially through the high terrain and the canyon roadways. Now, right now, we're expecting multiple rounds of moderate to heavy rain to impact the area starting from late this evening and continuing on and off all the way through Friday. The heaviest rain will start late tonight and then will peak on Wednesday, Christmas Eve. The rain will taper off some Wednesday night, but another round of moderate to heavy rain is forecast to occur on Christmas Day, Thursday, and this rain could potentially last through Friday. All in all, for the storm total rainfall accumulations, we're expecting lower elevations, such as downtown Los Angeles and points southward, to pick up a total of 2 to 4 inches of rain. But as you go north and west into the Santa Monica Mountains, the San Fernando Valley, along with the San Gabriel Mountains and foothills, in addition to nearby northern portions of the Los Angeles Basin and the Hollywood Hills area, we're looking at a total of 4 to 8 inches of rain to occur through late week. In fact, some of our computer model projections indicate over a foot of rain falling in total over the mountains by the end of this week. Now, I want to clarify, all of this rain will not be falling all at once. Rainfall rates may only approach or marginally exceed the debris flow thresholds. So while debris flows on the burn scars will be possible, in general, they should be minor to moderate. However, with as much total rain as what we're expecting, widespread significant flooding will likely occur in urban and poor drainage areas, especially in and around the higher terrain. There will almost certainly be numerous rock slides and mudslides, along with areas of severe flooding in urban locations and along freeways, which is why being out on the roads will be exceptionally dangerous. Additionally, flooding of smaller creeks and streams, tributaries will be likely, and main stem river flooding will also be possible. And I want to specify that the flooding, rock slide, and mudslide dangers will grow at a gradual pace after the onset of the heavier rain tonight into tomorrow morning. Because this is a long duration event, it will take less and less rainfall to produce more and more impacts from flooding, rock slides, and mudslides as the week progresses, as the ground saturates during that time frame. So please don't assume that the danger is over just because we made it through the first round of heavier rain. Conditions will likely be deteriorating as we head through late week. Also, while downtown Los Angeles and areas across a large part of the LA basin may only experience isolated and minor to moderate flooding, you won't have to go too far into the northern parts of the LA basin and into the higher terrain to experience much more severe impacts. As for additional context from the National Weather Service, this is a rare designation of high risk that's used to categorize the expected rainfall and flooding impacts with this major storm system. A high risk designation is rarely designated anywhere across the country and indicates high confidence that an exceptionally dangerous flood event is anticipated. Most flood-related damages and over a third of all of the nation's flood-related fatalities occur within the high-risk designated areas. So what you can do now is to prepare yourselves and your loved ones ahead of time. Stay indoors and off the roads if at all possible. Never drive through a flooded roadway. Turn around, don't drown. If you're in an area that's especially prone to flooding, rock slides, mudslides, or debris flows, please take the necessary precautions now to prepare yourself. The cost of being underprepared is often far greater than the cost of being overprepared. In addition, we are expecting areas of gusty winds to affect the region with the storm system, periodically affecting the greater Los Angeles area throughout the duration of the storm. While these winds alone may be capable of creating damage, downing trees and power lines, it's the combination of the strong winds and the heavy rains that will create an especially favorable environment for numerous downed trees and power lines. So if the winds suddenly pick up, or if you hear a severe weather warning from the National Weather Service, we recommend that you be indoors in a sturdy structure and on the lowest floor with as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Stay away from windows. Once again, dangerous weather is on the way from tonight through the Christmas holiday and into Friday. And on behalf of the National Weather Service, we will continue working closely with our core partners, including emergency management officials, as well as the mayor's office, to ensure that everyone has the latest information available on the evolving storm situation through the week. To all Angelinos, stay safe, stay aware, stay off the roads if you can, and take care. Thank you for having me, and I'm going to pass it now to Chief Moore.
Thank you, Dr. Cohen. Good afternoon, everybody. To reiterate what Mayor Bass and Dr. Cohen have expressed.
All right, folks, we're going to cut this off. We're going to see you at 4 p.m. for the 4 o'clock show. We'll see you then.